we present Crawford Logan as Paul Temple and Gerda Stevenson as Steve in Paul Temple and the Sullivan Mystery, a serial by Francis Durbridge. Episode 1, Having a Wonderful Time.
Charlie?
Yes, sir?
Did you pack the flask?
It's in the zip, sir.
Have you nearly finished, Charlie?
Yes, everything's packed, Mrs. T. I've only got to close this case and then you're all set. There you are.
Where's the hat box?
It's in the bedroom.
And Mr. Temple's valise?
There's the hat box in the bedroom, the brown leather case in the hall, the small...
Wasn't that the doorbell?
Sounded like it.
See who it is, Charlie.
Okay.
Did you pack my diary, dear?
Yes, it's in the valise.
Good. Well, we're nearly ready, Steve. At last.
This case seems awfully heavy, Paul. Do you think it'll be all right on the plane?
Of course it'll be all right. Don't worry, don't fuss so much. By Timothy, what a woman. Excited?
Nervous.
What are you nervous about?
What do you think I'm nervous about? Flying, of course.
My dear Steve will enjoy every minute of it. And once we get to Cairo, you'll have the time of your life.
There's a Miss Raymond would like to see you, sir.
Miss Raymond?
Yes, sir.
To see me?
Well, that's what she says.
Do you know anyone called Raymond?
No.
What does she want, Charlie?
I've told you, she wants to see you.
Yes, I know that.
There used to be a girl, Raymond, on the Daily News. Don't you remember? She did the society gossip. Tall, rather good-looking, blonde.
That's the party.
All right, Charlie. Ask her in.
Okay.
Joyce Raymond, yes. Yes, I remember her. What on earth does she want, I wonder?
Miss Raymond, sir.
Come in, Miss Raymond.
It's awfully sweet of you to see me. Hello, Mrs. Temple. How are you? It's ages since we met.
I'm very well, thank you.
I'm awfully sorry to drop in on you like this. I'm sure you must be frantically busy.
Well, as a matter of fact, we are. We're leaving for Bournemouth in half an hour, and on Thursday morning we're off to Cairo.
Yes, I know. I saw the write-up about you both in last night's paper. As a matter of fact, that's why I'm here.
I'm afraid there's no mystery attached to our trip, Miss Raymond. I'm simply going to Egypt to get data for a new book I'm writing.
But I'm not here for a story, Mr. Temple. I left Fleet Street ages ago.
Then why?
I want you to do something for me. I hope you won't consider it a colossal impertinence.
Not at all, but what is it exactly?
I have a cousin in Cairo. His name's Richard Sullivan. He works for the Trans-Eurasian Oil Company. Richard was over here about 6 weeks ago and... Look, to be perfectly frank, we had rather a night out together before he sailed. The poor darling lost his glasses.
And now I suppose you found them and you want us to take them to him.
Oh, you're a thought reader, Mr. Temple. Yes, I found them this morning and I'd be terribly grateful if you would take them. I keep getting the most frantic cables.
We'll do that with pleasure.
Oh, it's really most awfully kind of you.
If you give me the glasses, Miss Raymond, I'll put them in my handbag.
Here you are.
Thank you.
I'll send Richard a cable. He'll probably meet the plane.
Well, we're staying in Bournemouth for 2 days, so we shan't be in Cairo till sometime on Friday, but don't worry. We'll see Mr. Sullivan gets them, all right?
Oh, it's really most awfully kind of you. I'm terribly grateful.
Think nothing of it.
Well, bon voyage. I hope you have a wonderful time. And thanks again.
Now, let me see, sir. Mr. and Mrs.
Temple, I've got your letter here somewhere. Here it is.
Oh, yes, sir. You're staying 2 nights, leaving on Thursday morning. Would you register, please, sir?
Yes, of course.
Mr. Armstrong's arrived, sir.
Mr. Armstrong? Oh, yes, room 321.
Room 321, sir.
Thank you.
You get the key from the hall porter, sir. I'll have your things sent up straight away.
Thank you. Oh, I beg your pardon.
That's quite all right.
Room 322, Mr. Temple.
Thank you. $319, $320, $321.
Here we are, darling. 322. I'll take the valise.
Uh-huh.
Why? This can't be right. It's a single room.
Well, it's 322.
They've probably given that other man the double room by mistake.
Yes, they must have.
There's someone coming.
I beg your pardon, but the young lady at the desk told me to tell you she'd made a mistake. Apparently I'm in 322 and you're in 321.
Oh, we thought something like that had happened.
Here's your key.
Thank you. Yours is in the door.
Oh, thanks. You're just next door.
Yes. Come along, Steve. Would you like some more coffee, Steve?
No, thank you.
Tired?
A little. Still, we can sleep in tomorrow morning.
Yes, and make the most of it. We shan't be able to sleep in on Thursday.
Where do we go through the customs? At Poole?
Yes. Shouldn't take very long.
And then what happens?
Well, after the customs and the currency check-up, they take us out to the flying boat.
And then we really start.
Yeah. And then we really start.
What would you like to do tomorrow?
Well, if it's a decent day, I thought we might have a ride over to Sandbanks and go for a sail.
Yes, that would be rather nice.
Ready, Steve?
Yes, I'm ready.
Right, let's go up. Have you got the key?
Yes, it's in my handbag. Here.
Thanks. I do hope it's a decent day tomorrow. It'll be quite a change to take a boat out again. Our friend next door seems to be pretty het up.
We should be here any minute.
Well, send for him again. I wouldn't have believed this could have happened in a respectable hotel.
Hello. What seems to be the trouble?
My goodness me, you've had a narrow squeak, my friend. You can thank your lucky stars in no mistake.
What do you mean?
Just look in here. Just look at my room. Look at it.
By Timothy.
What happened?
What's happened? What's happened? Why, the room's been ransacked. That's what's happened. Just look at it.
When did this happen?
Well, it must have happened while I was having dinner. The room was perfectly all right when I left it. Just look at that suitcase. They must have ripped the thing open with a razor.
Have they taken much?
Well, they haven't taken a thing. That's the extraordinary part about it. I just can't understand it. I left a pair of cufflinks on the dressing table. Gold cufflinks. They're still there. Look.
You don't think it's a practical joke?
A joke? Well, it's certainly not my idea of a joke.
No, nor mine either. Mr.
Armstrong. Victor Armstrong.
How long are you staying here?
Only for the one night, thank the Lord. As a matter of fact, after this muck-up, I'm not so sure I shall stay here the night.
Are you quite sure they haven't taken anything?
I've told you, they haven't taken a blessed thing. Not so much as a pocket handkerchief. I just can't understand it.
Paul, I wonder if our room's all right.
Good Lord, yes. Hadn't thought of that.
We'd better go and have a look.
Ah, well, that's all right. Everything's just as we left it.
Thank goodness. It's rather odd, isn't it, about that room, I mean?
If Armstrong was telling the truth, and they didn't take anything, then whoever broke into that room must have been looking for something in particular. Something which Armstrong either knew nothing of... Hello?
Mr. Temple, sir?
Yes?
This is the hall porter. There's a gentleman to see you, sir. Inspector Fowler.
Inspector Fowler? To see me?
Yes, sir.
A police inspector?
Yes, sir.
Where is he?
I've asked him to wait in the lounge, sir.
Yes, all right. Tell the inspector I'll be down straight away. Oh, do you know Inspector Fowler? Personally, I mean.
Yes, sir. He's been to the hotel several times, sir. He's from the Bournemouth CID.
Oh. Oh, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Who was it, darling?
Well, apparently there's an Inspector Fowler wants to see me. He's in the lounge.
Do you know him?
No. I've never even heard of him.
Well, what does he want? I said, what does he want?
Your guess is as good as mine. Let's ask him.
I'm sorry to disturb you at this time of night, Mr. Temple.
That's all right, Inspector. Oh, this is my wife.
How do you do?
How do you do, Inspector?
Well, what can I do for you?
About half an hour ago, I had a telephone message through from Scotland Yard, from Superintendent Cleaver.
I know Cleaver. He's an old friend of mine.
Yes, sir. He asked me to contact you and to make inquiries concerning a Miss Raymond.
Miss Raymond?
Yes.
What exactly is it you want to know about Miss Raymond?
We want to know everything, sir.
Yes, I know, but,
We've reason to believe that Miss Raymond visited you this afternoon at your flat in Half Moon Street. Is that correct, sir?
Quite correct.
Had she an appointment?
No, the visit was, to say the least, unexpected. Look here. Has something happened to Miss
What
Raymond?
do you mean, sir? The visit was unexpected.
I mean that both my wife and I were very surprised when she turned up at the flat. Miss Raymond isn't a friend of ours. She's barely an acquaintance.
She'd read that we were flying to Cairo, and she asked if we'd deliver these spectacles to a friend of hers. Apparently, he lost them in London about 6 weeks ago.
And what was the name of this friend?
What was it, darling?
Richard Sullivan. He's with the Trans-Eurasian Oil Company.
I see. May I see the glasses, Mrs. Temple? Thank you. They appear to be a perfectly ordinary pair of spectacles.
Is there any reason why they shouldn't be?
Mr. Temple, shortly after she left your flat this afternoon, Miss Raymond was murdered. She was shot dead, just as she was getting into a taxi on the corner of Half Moon Street.
Who shot her?
We don't know. And the person who did it got clean away. Frankly, we haven't the slightest idea whether it was a man or a woman.
Motive?
Well, it doesn't appear to have been a motive. Miss Raymond didn't ask you to deliver anything else to Mr. Sullivan. A letter, perhaps, or...
No, nothing else.
Was there a case for the glasses?
No.
Inspector, you surely don't think that these spectacles have got anything to do with...
With what, Mrs. Temple?
Well, with why she was murdered.
What's your opinion, Mr. Temple?
Well, as you said yourself a moment ago, they appear to be a perfectly ordinary pair of spectacles.
Look here. We've got a man down here called Warrender. He was with MI5 during the war. I'd rather like him to see these glasses. If there's anything peculiar about them, he'll ferret it out.
Well, that's all right by me. As a matter of fact, I should prefer it.
When are you leaving?
We're flying from the BOAC base at Poole on Thursday morning.
Good. I'll get these to Warrender tonight and contact you tomorrow. If the report's negative, there's no reason why you shouldn't deliver the spectacles to Mr. Sullivan as arranged.
Right. Now, would you like a drink, Inspector?
Well, that's very kind of you, sir. May I have a whiskey and soda?
Paul, wake up.
What is it?
Listen.
Steve, what the dickens is the idea?
Did you hear it?
Yes. What is it?
I don't know. I've heard it before several times.
Listen.
Paul, what is it? Where's it coming from?
It sounds to me as if... Wait a minute. Put the light on.
Paul, someone's in pain, in terrible pain.
Yes. Pass me my dressing gown.
Where's it coming from?
Next door, from Armstrong's room. You stay here, Steve.
No.
Don't be silly, darling. I'll be back in a minute.
I'm coming with you.
Shh. Listen.
You're right. It is from next door.
Come on, darling.
I don't know what you think, Paul, but I've got a feeling that... Oh, there's someone coming out of the room.
No, it's the room on the other side of 322.
Oh, yes, so it is. They must have heard it too.
I say, I beg your pardon, but do you hear that noise coming from 322?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we've been listening to it.
Well, so have I. Whoever it is, the poor devil's obviously pretty ill. I don't know what you feel, but I really think we ought to do something about it.
Well, the room's occupied by a man called Armstrong.
Oh, do you know him?
No, not exactly. I've spoken to him, that's about all.
Well, I really feel we ought to see if he's all right, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Shall I knock?
Yes.
Well, that's odd.
What's that you've got, Steve?
Oh, I just picked it up. It was near the door.
It looks like a lozenge of some sort. A peppermint.
Yes, that's what it is, a peppermint.
I say, this is rather odd, isn't it? You think he'd at least answer.
The door's unlocked.
Well, where's the light?
It's all right. I've got it.
Why, there's no one here. The room's empty.
But there must be someone
The
here.
bed
We
hasn't
heard
been
them.
slept in.
I say, I just don't understand this. If the bed hasn't been slept in, then how the devil... What are you looking at?
Paul, what is it?
The wardrobe. Look at the door of the wardrobe.
It's blood.
Get it open. Get the wardrobe open. Quickly.
Good Lord, it's a girl. And look at her. Look at her face. She's been beaten up.
Oh, Paul.
Steve, do you see who it is?
What? Why, it's the girl who came to the flat. Joyce Raymond.
Pass the marmalade, Steve. Look here, Steve, you mustn't be silly about this business. You've got to eat some breakfast.
I can't. I'm not hungry.
Well, drink your coffee. Come on.
What happened to Armstrong? Did you find out?
Yes. He apparently checked out last night soon after we spoke to him. I'd rather gather he had a row with the manager. He was certainly all set for one.
Then he never actually stayed here.
No. The room was supposed to be empty. Oh, by the way, that young fellow we met last night, he's in the same boat as us. Or rather, the same flying boat. He's on his way to Egypt.
Oh. Paul, is this business going to make any difference to us?
In what way, dear?
I mean, are we still going to Cairo?
But of course we're going to Cairo. I've got to go, you know that, darling.
But what about the inquest?
So I've been on the phone to Sir Graham. Don't worry about the inquest. In any case, we've made a detailed statement to Fowler. There's nothing else we can do. Come along, darling, eat some of that toast.
You know, I still don't understand about Joyce Raymond. The inspector said that she'd been shot.
Joyce Raymond had a sister called Lydia. Lydia was apparently watching our flat yesterday afternoon when Joyce delivered the spectacles. After her sister had left the flat and we departed for Bournemouth, Lydia made her way to the end of Half Moon Street and hailed a taxi. It was then it happened.
You mean that it was Lydia Raymond that was shot in Half Moon Street?
Yes. The police checked all the houses in the street, and naturally, when Charlie told them that a Miss Raymond had paid us a visit, they jumped to the conclusion that it was Lydia. Actually, they knew nothing about Joyce.
I see. Paul, why do you think they were murdered like that, both of them? Do you think those glasses have got anything to do with it? Or is it simply a coincidence that they... Oh, here's the inspector.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Inspector.
Good morning, Mrs. Temple.
Good morning.
I'm sorry to interrupt your breakfast, but I brought these back.
Oh, the glasses.
Yes. Warrender's examined them, sir. He's made a pretty thorough examination of them.
Well?
He's quite convinced that they're just an ordinary pair of spectacles.
You mean they haven't been tampered with?
No, sir. Not in any way at all, sir.
Well, in view of what's happened, what do you want me to do with them?
We'd like you to deliver them to Mr. Sullivan, sir.
Paul, I think you're wonderful.
Why?
I never knew you could handle a yacht.
Oh, this is only a glorified dinghy. I'm very ignorant. Look out, don't touch that rope or you'll have us over.
Aye, aye, Captain.
Enjoying it?
Enormously.
And you're the girl that didn't want to come.
Yes, I
Remember?
know. But I felt so depressed. That business last night upset me.
You're supposed to be steering.
Oh, sorry.
I just can't believe we're in Bournemouth today and we shall be in Cairo on Friday.
What time do we get there?
Well, we leave here tomorrow at 8 o'clock, spend the night in Augusta, and we shall be in Cairo about tea time on Friday.
It seems so awfully quick.
Oh, don't worry. It's all very luxurious and as safe as houses. Hello.
What is it?
There's that launch again.
Which one do you mean?
You know, the chap with the binoculars.
Oh, yes. He's still using them.
We must look a very edifying couple. I don't believe the blight has taken his eyes off us.
I say, he's coming awfully near.
Quite a darn fool. What's he trying to do?
Darling.
It's all right, Steve. Just stay still. Don't move. The darn fool nearly had us over.
He did it deliberately. Paul, he must have done it deliberately.
You all right?
Yes, but I...
Short. I thought we'd had it. If he'd been a yard nearer, we should have. Mind that rope, Steve. Change over to the other side, dear. I'll take over.
He's turning. He's coming back.
I should think if he's got any manners, he'll come back and apologize.
Paul, I don't like this.
It's all right, Steve. Don't be silly. He won't do it again. He's probably pretty shamefaced about it. Lie down. Lie down.
Paul!
Lie down, Steve.
He's trying to capsize us. He's doing it deliberately. Paul! Paul!
Steve! Steve! Where are you? Where are you, darling?
Oh, I'm over here.
Ah!
side. I've got hold of the boat.
Hang on! Coming! Oh, good girl.
Here, get hold of the rope.
It's all right. Can you hold on?
Yes, I think so.
Don't let go, Steve.
Oh, he did it deliberately. He saw what happened. If he hadn't done it deliberately, then he'd have come back.
Yes. Yes, don't talk, Steve.
Did you see him? The man in the boat, I mean.
I couldn't see his face. He held the binoculars up.
Paul, what's behind all this? Why should we suddenly...
Steve, watch out. Be careful.
What are we going to do?
We'll either have to hold on here until someone comes and rescues us, or try to swim for it. There's a boat. There's a boat, Steve.
Where?
Over there. Look.
He's seen us! He's seen us!
Has he? Yes. Yes, you're right. Oh, good man. Good man!
Come on! Come on! Come on! One more! One! That's it.
Thank you. Are you all right, Steve?
Yes, thank you, dear.
These little tubs are pretty tricky to handle, you know. You shouldn't go out of them unless you know how. I say, you're the people I bumped into last night in the hotel.
Why, yes, of course.
Well, I'm dashed. I'm afraid I didn't recognize you.
It's not surprising.
Well, look here. In view of the fact that we're going to see quite a bit of each other, I think it's about time we introduced ourselves, don't you? My name is Darwin. Harold Darwin.
Would you mind opening the case, madam?
The small case?
If you please, madam. Thank you. Yes, all right. Pass along, please. Thank you. Are these yours, sir?
Yes.
I'd like to see in this one, sir.
Have you got the key, darling?
Yes, but there's absolutely nothing
Have you
in
got
it.
the key, Steve? Thanks.
Is this a camera?
Yes, it's a Cine, 16mm. I've got the receipt for it, if you'd like to see it.
No, that's all right.
Thanks.
Is this your case, sir?
Yes?
Is there anything in it other than personal belongings?
Pound notes.
Yes. Well, we'll have a look at it.
It's all right. It's only a gag, old boy. I say, look out. You're emptying everything all over the place.
It's all right. It's only a gag, old boy.
Mr. Temple?
Yes?
My name is Baker, sir. Bournemouth Dispatch. I'm covering the Raymond murder, sir, and I was wondering if you'd be good enough...
I'm sorry, Mr. Baker.
I realise you're in a hurry, sir, but if you could just give me a brief outline of the...
Sorry, Mr. Baker. Come along, Steve. The launch is waiting.
Well, are you excited, Mrs. Temple?
Yes, Mr. Darwin, I am rather.
We shall be alongside the flying boat in a moment.
Yes. I say these flying boats are pretty impressive looking, aren't they?
What class is this? High?
No, sir. It's a Plymouth. I wouldn't mind a cigarette now, sir.
Can't we smoke on board?
Not until we're airborne, sir. Then it's okay.
Oh, I see, thanks.
Always better to be on the safe side.
Yes, ma'am.
It's quite choppy on the water, isn't it? I'm really surprised it looks so calm. Is this your first trip, my dear?
Well, in a flying boat, yes.
Mine too. As a matter of fact, I've never been up before.
Well, there's no need to be nervous, ma'am.
Oh, I'm not nervous. I'm a wee bit anxious, perhaps. Did you read about that murder in Bournemouth the night before last?
Yes, I saw something about it.
I was staying in the same hotel. In the same hotel, mark you.
Here we are, darling.
Give me your hand, Mrs. Temple.
Wait a moment, please.
Hello, Perry. How's tricks?
Can't grumble, old boy. Watch your step.
Go on, darling.
Give me your hand. That's it.
Thank you.
Next, please. Any more for the Skylark?
Well, I must say it's really quite cosy. And there seems to be every possible convenience. Oh, is my handbag in your way at all?
No, that's quite all right. Where's Mr. Darwin?
There he is. Further along, in the next cabin.
Oh,
Hello there.
hello. Are we off?
Not yet.
Hello, what's this?
Oh, it's your belt, Miss,
Fraser.
It's your belt, Miss Fraser.
Belt.
Yes. You just put it round you and... That's it.
Fasten your belts, please.
Paul, we're off. We're leaving the water.
No, we're not. Not yet.
Oh dear, my tummy. Could I trouble you for my handbag, please?
Yes, of course.
I've got somewhere. Oh, here we are. Would you like a lozenge, my dear?
No, thank you, Miss Fraser.
No.
No, thank you.
They're peppermints.
That was the first episode of the Francis Durbridge serial, Paul Temple and the Sullivan Mystery, with Crawford Logan as Paul Temple and Gerda Stevenson as Steve. Others taking part were Richard Greenwood, Eliza Langland, Michael Mackenzie, Lucy Patterson, Greg Powery, and Nick Underwood. The production was by Patrick Rayner. We present Crawford Logan as Paul Temple and Gerda Stevenson as Steve in Paul Temple and the Sullivan Mystery, a serial by Francis Durbridge. Episode 2, Interlude at Augusta.
Paul, we're off. We're leaving the water.
No, we're not. Not yet.
Oh dear, my tummy. Could I trouble you for my handbag?
Yes, of course, Miss Fraser.
I've got somewhere. Oh, here they are. Would you like a lozenge, my dear?
No, thank you, Miss Fraser.
No?
No, thank you.
They're peppermints.
Peppermints?
Yes, do have one, my dear.
No, I won't have one. Thanks very much.
We're leaving the water.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
There we are. We're off.
Oh dear, we seem to be going very high.
I'm afraid we shall go a lot higher, Miss Fraser.
What's that place, darling?
Where? Oh, that's Brownsea Island.
Is that Pool I can see?
Yes, that's Pool.
What a tiny wee place. No, this is really quite pleasant.
You can undo your belt now, Miss Fraser.
How high are we, darling?
I don't know. I'm not very good on heights. How high are we, Stuart?
About 5,000 feet, sir. You can unfasten your belt now, madam.
Thank you.
Can I get you anything, sir?
Not at the moment, thank you.
Is there an observation cabin?
There's what we call the promenade deck, madam.
We'll have a look at that later, dear.
Anything I can get you, madam?
No, thank you. Are you travelling far, Mr. Temple?
We're going as far as Cairo, that's all.
Oh, I've a much longer journey. I'm going to Port Darwin.
Port Darwin?
Yes. Fortunately, I'm staying a week in Cairo and almost a fortnight in Singapore, so the journey won't seem quite so long.
No.
Is this your first trip to Egypt, Mrs. Temple?
Yes, I'm afraid it is.
It's a fascinating country, really fascinating. The first time I visited Egypt was just over 12 years ago. Yes, just over 12 years, at 1935. My, things have changed a great deal since then, haven't they?
Have you friends in Cairo?
Our brother. or rather strictly speaking, a half-brother. Apart from a short spell in Indochina, he spent nearly all his life in Egypt. I must say he's done very well for himself. He's with the Trans-Eurasian Oil Company.
Oh, yes.
In many ways, I suppose we're rather a curious family. I have a half-brother in Cairo, a sister in Singapore, 2 brothers in Port Darwin, and a sister in Wellington, New South Wales.
You certainly believe in spreading yourselves out.
Yes, we do that. I sometimes wonder whether it's a good thing or not.
Would you like to see the promenade deck?
Yes. Yes, I would. Excuse me, Miss Fraser.
You'll get the best view over here, Steve.
Paul, what do you make of that woman? Do you think she's mixed up in this business?
Now, darling, listen. I don't know whether she's mixed up in this business or whether she isn't, but for the last 5 minutes you've been looking at her as if she was Dracula's favourite aunt and Frankenstein's kid sister rolled into one.
But you saw what happened. You heard what she said.
Steve, Miss Fraser stayed the night at the same hotel as Miss Raymond. Right. So did we. So did Harold Darwin. So did 50 or 60 other people.
But the peppermints.
Miss Fraser sucks peppermints, agreed. But so do thousands of other people.
And the fact that her brother...
She has a half-brother who works for the Trans-Eurasian Oil Company.
Does this mean you're not interested in this case?
Case? What case? Joyce Raymond gave us a pair of spectacles and asked us to deliver them to a man in Cairo called Richard Sullivan.
But Joyce Raymond was murdered, and she was murdered because...
Because what?
She was murdered because of the spectacles. You know that as well as I do. Why do you think we were nearly drowned yesterday afternoon? Do you think that was an accident, or do you think it was done deliberately?
I say, you're pretty determined about this business, aren't you?
Someone intends to stop us from delivering those spectacles to Richard Sullivan. Well, I don't intend to let them stop us. I intend to deliver those glasses if it's the last thing I do.
Excuse me, darling, but, where are the glasses?
Why, they're in my handbag.
You sure?
Of course I'm sure. I put them in... Why, they're gone. Paul, they're gone.
It's all right, don't get excited. I've got them.
You've got them?
Yes, I took them out of your handbag half an hour ago.
Oh.
Just to be on the safe side.
You know, I've got a hunch that you're not being straight with me about this business. I think that you think that I think that...
What do you think, darling?
I think I'm beginning to feel sick.
Yes, I thought you were. Let's go back to our seats.
Hello, everything shipshape?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, just going back?
Yes, my wife...
Excuse me.
Have a cigarette?
No, I won't have one just now, thank you.
Looks like being a nice trip.
Yes.
Temple, I've been meaning to ask you, that girl we found...
Joyce Raymond?
Yes. Was she a friend of yours?
Hardly a friend.
But you'd seen her quite recently, I mean.
Yes, as a matter of fact, I'd seen her that very afternoon.
In Bournemouth?
No, in London.
In London?
Yes.
Did you tell the inspector that you'd seen her in London?
Yes, of course I did.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to.
That's all right.
I'm not exactly used to this sort of thing, you know. I suppose it's only natural that I should be, well, rather curious.
What exactly is it you're curious about, Mr. Darwin?
Well, the usual sort of things, I suppose.
Why she was murdered. Who murdered her?
Yes.
I wish I could satisfy your curiosity. How long are you staying in Cairo?
6 months, a year, perhaps even longer. I'm with Hyman and Mervyn, the engineering people.
Oh.
I can see Hyman and Mervyn doesn't mean a thing to you. Drills, mining equipment. We deal with all the Middle East combines.
Including the Trans-Eurasian Oil Company?
Oh, good Lord, yes, I should say so. Without the good old TEOC, we should go right under.
You don't happen to know a man in Cairo by the name of Richard Sullivan? I believe he's with the TEOC.
Sullivan? No, I'm afraid I don't. Always used to deal with a chap called Becklar, Ronnie Becklar. Nice chap, but drank like a fish. Pity. Is this chap Sullivan a friend of yours?
No, he's just a sort of friend of a friend.
Ah, I see. Well, if I can be of any help to you while you're in Cairo, just give me a tinkle. I shall be at the Cosmopolitan for the first week.
That's very kind of you.
Oh, not at all. Only too delighted. I say, look at that yacht. Oh, she's a beauty, isn't she?
See you later.
Oh, yes, rather.
Would you like some more coffee?
No, thank you.
Tired?
A little.
Why don't you try and get some sleep?
Yes, I think I will.
You can adjust your seat if you'd like to lie down.
It's all right, dear. I'm quite comfy.
Miss Fraser's well away.
What was that?
I said Miss Fraser's... It's nothing. You have a snooze.
I beg your pardon, sir. Mr. Temple.
Yes?
The gentleman in C cabin asked me to deliver a message, sir.
Which gentleman?
The dark, stout gentleman, sir.
The one I can see through the door, the man smoking a cigar.
Yes, sir. He'd like to have a word with you, sir, at your convenience.
Yes, all right. Tell him I'll see him on the promenade deck.
Now, sir?
Yes, straight away.
Very good, sir.
Oh, do you happen to know the gentleman's name?
I think it's Constantine, sir.
Brazilian?
Portuguese.
Right. Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, sir.
You wanted to see me?
Mr. Temple?
Yes.
It's nice of you to spare me a few minutes.
That's all right.
Would you like a cigar?
No, thank you.
Perhaps I ought to introduce myself. My name is Constantine.
Well, what can I do for you, Mr. Constantine?
I don't suppose my name conveys a great deal to you.
To be frank, it doesn't.
That is unfortunate. However, what is your business, Mr. Temple?
I'm a novelist. I write books, detective stories, amongst other things.
Oh, yes. Detective stories.
If you look me up in Who's Who, Mr. Constantine, you will find that I'm the author of 16 detective novels, 3 plays, 4 biographies, and a very slim volume of verse. You will also find that I am married, that I have a flat in town, a country house near Evesham, and that my hobbies are reading, writing, and criminology. For your private information, Mr. Constantine, I also have a pet aversion.
And what is that?
People who don't come straight to the point.
Apparently, you also have a sense of humor, my friend. You may need it.
What is it you want?
2 days ago, a very charming lady by the name of Miss Raymond visited your flat in Half Moon Street. She handed over to you a certain document. You were told, if my information is correct, to deliver that document to a certain Mr. Richard Sullivan.
What about coming straight to the point?
Very well. I am a businessman, Mr. Temple. I have a proposition to put to you.
What is your proposition, Mr. Constantine?
Well, first of all, perhaps you might be interested to know there is no such person as Richard Sullivan. He doesn't exist. He is a myth. He is what is the word? A figment of the imagination.
Go on.
If you will hand over to me now the document that Miss Raymond gave to you, I will pay to you this evening, on arrival in Augusta, the sum of £7,000.
Go on.
That is all. As far as I am concerned, there is nothing more to say.
Well, so far as I'm concerned, there's quite a lot to say. In the first place, Miss Raymond did not hand me a document. In other words, the document, my dear Mr. Constantine, does not exist. It's a myth. A figment of your apparently fertile imagination. I was asked by Miss Raymond to deliver a perfectly ordinary pair of horn-rimmed spectacles to a gentleman in Cairo by the name of Richard Sullivan. I intend to deliver those spectacles, Mr. Constantine.
There is no such person as Richard Sullivan.
That I shall find out for myself when I get to Cairo.
Mr. Temple, one moment, please. These glasses, you say they are a perfectly ordinary pair of horn-rimmed spectacles, not tampered with in any way at all?
No.
You were told by Miss Raymond
I was asked by Miss Raymond.
You were asked by Miss Raymond to deliver them to a Mr. Richard Sullivan?
Yes.
I will give you £10,000 for the glasses. What is so funny?
Apparently, you also have a sense of humor, Mr. Constantine.
Oh dear. dear. What time is it?
Nearly 2:30.
What time do we reach Augusta?
About 5.
Paul, what is it? Why the frown?
It appears that you were right about the spectacles, Steve.
What do you mean?
I've just been offered £10,000 for them.
£10,000? Oh, good gracious. Good gracious me now. I've been asleep. I shall want my suitcase. I shall want my suitcase, young man.
That's quite all right, madam. The luggage is taken off by the customs. It'll be handed over to you later.
Mind your step, Miss Fraser.
Give me your hand.
Oh, thank you.
Can you manage, madam?
Yes, I'm all right.
Steady, Mrs. Temple.
Don't go and fall in the water, darling.
Would you all mind moving a little further along, please? Thank you. Give me your answer.
I can manage, thank you.
Miss Fraser.
Yes?
You are in room 24, please.
24?
Yes, that is on the first floor. Here is your key.
Thank you. I expect we shall meet at dinner, Mrs. Temple?
Yes, I expect so.
Mr. Darwin.
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 Yes, Darwin. Room 17, sir. Here is your key.
Thank you. Cheers.
See you later. Mr. and Mrs. Temple.
Mr. and Mrs. Oh, yes. Room 23, please. Here is your key.
Thank you.
Oh, Mr. Temple?
Yes?
There was a telephone call for you about half hour ago.
For me?
Yes, sir.
From London?
No, sir. The gentleman is ringing again later this evening.
Did he leave a name?
No, sir. No name and no message.
Thank you.
Wilton?
Wilton. Oh, yes. Mr. and Mrs. Wilton. Room 14.
Here's your razor, darling.
Oh, thanks.
And your shaving soap.
Thanks.
Who do you think telephoned?
I don't know. Can't imagine. Unless, of course, the girl was mistaken and the call was for someone else.
I don't think she was mistaken. Do you?
No.
That man you told me about, the man on the plane, Mr.
Mr. Constantine?
Yes. Was he serious about the £10,000?
Perfectly serious.
And yet he knew nothing about the spectacles until you told him.
No. He was apparently under the impression that Joyce Raymond had asked me to deliver a document to Richard Sullivan.
Yes. Yes, that bears out what I thought.
What do you mean?
Those glasses contain a secret message.
My dear Steve, whichever way you look at it, those glasses are just a perfectly ordinary pair of horn-rimmed spectacles.
Do you think Mr. Constantine would have offered you £10,000 for a perfectly ordinary pair of spectacles?
Well, you've seen them. You've examined them. Do you see any sign of a secret message?
No, I must confess I don't.
No. And neither do I, and neither did the CID expert.
You know, darling, I just don't understand your attitude over this business.
Don't you? My attitude's really quite simple, Steve. There's something pretty important behind all this, and pretty dangerous. But in spite of that, when I get to Cairo, I intend to hand the spectacles over to Richard Sullivan and go politely about my own business. There, so far as I am concerned, the matter ends.
But supposing Mr. Constantine was telling the truth, and there is no Richard Sullivan?
Then I shall take the glasses back to London and turn them over to the CID.
Yes, well, I've got an intuition about all this.
Oh, Steve, don't. Not that good old intuition.
You can laugh. But you know what I think? I think it's quite possible that we've already met the mysterious Mr. Sullivan.
Already met him?
Yes.
What do you mean?
Hasn't it occurred to you that Harold Darwin might be Richard Sullivan?
Harold Darwin?
Yes.
If he is, then why hasn't he spoken to me about the glasses?
He probably doesn't know you've got them, unless, of course, you've told him.
No, I haven't told him. But I spoke to him about Richard Sullivan, and he said he'd never heard of him.
He may have had a reason for saying that.
Possibly. I think I'll change this collar, darling. Where's the clean one, the blue one?
Oh, dear. Don't tell me I forgot to pack it.
Don't tell me you forgot to pack it.
Darling,
I'm afraid I have.
Oh, well, it doesn't matter. I shall have to keep this one, that's all. I suppose it doesn't look too bad.
Where's the bathroom, Paul? Did you notice?
Yes, it's at the end of the corridor on the right.
I shan't be a moment.
All right.
Don't unpack the large case, Paul. I packed everything we need in the small one.
Everything except my collar.
Yes, I expected that.
Mrs. Temple?
Oh. Yes?
Forgive me, but I wonder if you would be so kind as to spare me a moment.
What is it you want?
I don't know whether your husband told you or not, but we had quite a conversation together on the plane. Unfortunately, he...
So you're Mr. Constantine?
Yes. Mrs. Temple, we can't talk out here like this in the corridor. I wonder, would you be so kind as to step into my room for a moment? It's quite all right, I assure you. I will leave the door open.
Thank you. Well, Mr. Constantine?
Your husband is carrying a pair of spectacles. I have offered him £10,000 for them. He has refused and insists that he is taking the spectacles to Cairo to a gentleman by the name of Richard Sullivan.
Quite right.
Mrs. Temple, I hope you will use your influence with your husband. I hope you will, in fact, persuade him to accept my offer.
But the spectacles don't belong to my husband. They were entrusted to him by...
They were given to him by a rather impetuous young lady, yes, I know all about that.
For your information, that impetuous young lady was murdered, Mr. Constantine.
Murdered because she was stupid enough to interfere in something which did not concern her. You see, Mrs. Temple, the matter is really quite simple. If your husband persists in taking the glasses to Cairo, he will discover... Always providing, of course, that he reaches Cairo quite safely, he will discover that there is no such person as Richard Sullivan.
Mr. Constantine, those glasses appear to me to be just an ordinary pair of glasses. Then why are you offering my husband £10,000 for them?
Mrs. Temple, I am quite serious. I am, in fact, speaking to you as a friend. If you are fond of your husband and do not wish him to take unnecessary risks, then please persuade him to hand those glasses over to me here in Augusta. Now, tonight, before it is too late.
Hello. You've been a long time. Steve? What is it?
I've seen Constantine. He stopped me in the corridor.
Did he annoy you? Because if he did...
No, he was really quite pleasant. He asked me to use my influence with you to try to get you to hand over the glasses.
I suppose he told you that Sullivan doesn't exist, that when we get to...
Here's your call.
Yes. Hello?
Mr. Temple?
Yes.
There is a call for you. Wait a moment, please.
Hello?
Hello?
Mr. Temple?
Yes.
This is Richard Sullivan here.
Richard Sullivan?
That's right. I suppose this is rather a surprise. You didn't expect to hear from me.
No, as a matter of fact, I didn't, and not until we reached Cairo.
I got the cable from Joyce on Tuesday, just before I was leaving for Naples.
Where are you now?
Where am I? I'm here, in Augusta. I'm staying with a friend of mine, Colonel Marquand. But what about the glasses? Have you got them with you?
Yes, I've got them.
That's fine. Can I pick them up in about 20 minutes?
Yes, of course.
Good. It's awfully decent of you to bring them.
That's all right. I shall look forward to seeing you.
Thanks. Oh, how is Miss Raymond?
I'm afraid I've got some rather bad news for you, Mr. Sullivan.
What do you mean? About Joyce?
Yes. I'll tell you when I see you.
All right. I'll be there in 20 minutes. See you in the lounge?
Yes, all right.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
So that was Richard Sullivan.
Yes.
What time is it?
It's nearly 7:30.
It's over an hour since he telephoned.
I know. I've got a hunch he's not going to show up.
Paul, do you think it really was Sullivan? Or
What do you mean?
Or could it have been Mr. Constantine?
Well, it certainly wasn't Constantine. For one thing, it was an outside call. course, he may have got a friend to phone.
That's what I thought.
Yes. Well, in that case, why hasn't the friend turned up?
Paul, is Constantine on the way to Cairo?
I gather he's booked through to Singapore. Of course, that might mean anything.
What did he sound like? The man on the telephone, I mean.
He seemed a bright, cheerful sort of chap. A bit too cheerful, perhaps.
What do you mean?
Oh, I don't know. He sounded just a little forced, I thought, as if the whole business had been rather carefully rehearsed.
You asked him where he was speaking from. What did he say?
No. I didn't ask him where he was speaking from. I said, "Where are you now?" And he said, "I'm here in Augusta. I'm staying with a friend of mine, Colonel Marquand." Colonel Marquand. That's an idea. Let's have a word with the receptionist.
Is there anything I can do for you, sir?
Yes. Have you a telephone directory?
Certainly, sir.
I want to find the address of a Colonel Marquand.
Colonel Marquand?
Yes.
But I cannot give you the address, sir. Villa Negara.
Villa Negara? Where is that?
It's about half a mile away, madame.
Where exactly?
Towards Syracuse, sir. The villa stands in a small park on the hill, overlooking the harbor.
Well, how do we get there?
If you wish to walk, you take the road towards the harbor and bear right when you get to the bridge. It is a pleasant walk this time of the night.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well, what do you say? Shall we go up to the villa or wait?
Let's go up to the villa.
Right. I'll go upstairs and get the torch. We might need it.
Oh, gosh, what a climb. I thought we should never get here.
I was beginning to wonder if we should ever make it. Oh, here's the gate.
Where's the house?
There it is, through those trees.
Oh, what a lovely place. Let's open the gate.
I bet they've got a wonderful view from those windows.
Yes.
What's that, Steve, over there?
It's a lake. It's certainly a lovely garden.
Yes. It's a pity it's getting dark. We could have...
What is it?
Listen.
Get back! Get back here!
Paul, what is it?
There's someone coming, running from the house.
Paul!
Here he is. Look, he's coming down the drive.
Hello there! Who are you? Who are you? Oh!
Give me your arm. I'll help you.
No! Don't touch me!
Oh, Paul, he's been shot. He's badly hurt. We've got to do something.
I'll get hold of his arm. We'll try and help him towards the gate.
Don't touch me! Who are you? What are you doing here?
Just a minute, my friend. You're the fellow that spoke to me on the telephone. Are you Richard Sullivan?
No, I'm not. But I had to speak to you. I was made to speak to you. Oh, my back!
Potete vedere! Dove è andato?
Paul, there's someone coming.
Don't let them touch me, please. Don't let them touch me. Oh!
He's falling.
All right, I've got him.
Temple, listen. Listen. Whatever happens, get those glasses to Cairo.
That was the second episode of the Francis Durbridge serial, Paul Temple and the Sullivan Mystery, with Crawford Logan as Paul Temple and Gerda Stevenson as Steve. Others taking part were Richard Greenwood, Eliza Langland, Angus McInnes, Lucy Patterson, and Nick Underwood. The production was by Patrick Rayner. We present Crawford Logan as Paul Temple and Gerda Stevenson as Steve in Paul Temple and the Sullivan Mystery, a serial by Francis Durbridge. Episode 3, Introducing Colonel Marquand.
Where's the house, darling?
There it is, through those trees.
Oh, what a lovely place. Let's open the gate.
I bet they've got a wonderful view from those windows.
Yes.
What's that, Steve, over there?
It's a lake. It's certainly a lovely garden.
Yes. It's a pity it's getting dark. We could have...
What is it?
Listen.
Get back! Get back here!
Paul, what is it?
There's someone coming, running from the house.
Paul!
Here he is. Look, he's coming down the drive. Hello there!
Who are you? Who are you? Oh!
Give me your arm. I'll help you.
No, don't touch me! Oh,
Paul, he's been shot. He's badly hurt. We've got to do something.
I'll get hold of his arm. We'll try and help him towards the gate.
no, don't touch me! Who are you? What are you doing here?
Just a minute, my friend. You're the fellow that spoke to me on the telephone. Are you Richard Sullivan?
No, I'm not. But I had to speak to you. I was made to speak to you. Oh, my back!
Potete vedere! Dove è andato?
Paul, there's someone coming.
Don't let them touch me, please. Don't let them touch me. Oh,
he's falling.
All right, I got him.
Temple, listen. Listen. Whatever happens, get those glasses to Cairo.
Oh, Paul, is he dead?
Yes. Steve, listen. Take these glasses. Take them, darling. Now, go back to the gate and wait for me.
But, Paul...
Do as I tell you. Go back to the gate and wait.
But you intend
Darling, go back to the gate and wait. I don't want them to see you.
Yes, all right.
Chi siete? Che cosa fa qui?
Be quiet, Emil.
Chi è? Che fa qui?
Non so. State tranquillo, lasciatemi. La parla lei.
Who are you? What do you want?
What's more to the point, my friend? Who are you?
My name is Marquand. Colonel Marquand. Is this man a friend of yours?
Well, judging from appearances, he doesn't appear to have been on very friendly terms with anyone.
Is he dead?
Yes.
Gee, that's unfortunate. But he asked for it. If these scoundrels make a habit of breaking into people's houses, they must take what's coming to them.
Are you suggesting that this man broke into your house?
What do you mean, suggesting? He did. We caught him red-handed, didn't we, Emile?
Si, he very bad. He tried to steal everything.
There's far too much of this sort of thing going on. If the police won't take action, then we've got to take the law into our own hands. That's all there is to it.
You appear to have taken the law into your own hands, Colonel Marquand.
What do you mean?
He's been beaten up.
Yeah, I know. That was Emile. You know what these wops are like. They're darned impetuous, and look, we caught the guy red-handed. Emile went for him, there was a struggle, he broke away, jumped through the French windows, and, well, I took a pot at him. I didn't mean to kill the guy. Frankly, I just meant to scare him.
You scared him, all right.
Chi è? Perché fa queste domande? State zitto,
I had a phone call about an hour and a half ago from a man called Sullivan. He said he was staying with you. My name's Temple.
Oh, you're Mr. Temple. Gee, that explains it. That explains everything. Sullivan's up at the house. He's waiting for you.
But he said he'd see me at the hotel.
At the hotel?
Yes. Over the phone, he said, I'll see you in 20 minutes. That was at 6 o'clock.
Is that so? Gee, I guess there's been a misunderstanding. He gave me to understand that you were calling here. As a matter of fact, he's been waiting for you. Look, I think maybe we better go up to the house. Then I can telephone the police and you can hand the spectacles over to Mr. Sullivan.
Oh, so you know about the spectacles, then?
Yeah. And will he be glad to get them?
Romantici, finisce. Arriviamo a casa. Poi condutti a Thompson's cabine.
Si, signor.
This way, Mr. Temple. I'm sorry I kept you waiting. I've been all this time on the telephone.
That's all right.
The police have identified that fellow. Apparently they've been on the lookout for him for some time. I gather he's a pretty notorious character around here. Oh, would you like a drink, Mr. Temple?
No, thank you.
I have a very excellent port.
Not at the moment, thank you.
Mr. Sullivan won't keep you long. He'll be down in a few moments. How long are you staying in Augusta?
Just for the night.
Oh, you're leaving tomorrow, then?
Yes, I'm on my way to Cairo. As a matter of fact, I expected to meet Mr. Sullivan in Cairo. Came as quite a surprise to find that he was here in Augusta.
Yeah, he arrived this morning from Naples. Are you sure you won't change your mind and have a glass of port?
Quite sure.
Ah, here's Sullivan.
I'm sorry to have been so long, Colonel, but...
What's the matter?
What are you doing here?
I've told you who he is. His name's Temple. He's got the... Say, what is this?
It's really quite simple. We've met before.
Met before?
Yes.
Where?
We met at Bournemouth 2 days ago.
Only on that occasion, if I remember correctly, you called yourself Victor Armstrong.
Why didn't you tell me you met him before? You fool, why didn't you tell me that he was...
I didn't know. How could I know that this was the man you meant?
There appears to be a certain amount of confusion. Do you mind if I clarify the situation?
Well?
2 days ago, a girl called Joyce Raymond gave me a pair of spectacles and asked me to deliver them to a man in Cairo called Richard Sullivan. Tonight, when I arrived in Augusta, I received a telephone call from this house from a man claiming to be Richard Sullivan. That man was the person I met on the drive. The man that had been shot, the man that had been beaten up.
His name was not Richard Sullivan.
All the same, he was the man that spoke to me on the telephone.
For heaven's sake, don't let's beat about the bush, Marquand. If he's got the glasses, then...
Be quiet! I'll handle this. I'll handle this in my own way. Sit down.
If you don't mind, I should prefer to stand.
Sit down.
Well, since you insist, I'll sit down.
Now listen, and listen carefully. Before we go any further,
Before we go any further, I should like that revolver of yours a little to the right. Do you mind? I'm rather sensitive about... Ah, thanks. That's much better.
Mr. Temple, I'm a businessman. Purely and simply a businessman. Therefore, I'm going to play straight with you, put my cards on the table, and make you a proposition.
Everybody seems to be making me propositions these days. What is yours, Colonel Marquand?
What did Miss Raymond tell you about the glasses? What did she say when she handed them over to you?
I've told you what she said. She simply asked me to deliver them to a man in Cairo called Richard Sullivan.
She said nothing else?
Nothing.
Right. Now, Mr. Temple, for my proposition. You can either hand over the glasses to me now, in which case you can walk out of here scot-free, or you can refuse to hand them over to me, in which case I shall take rather a delight in firing this revolver.
Of course, I may be prejudiced, but that sounds rather a one-sided proposition for a businessman to make. For instance, I much prefer the proposition I received this afternoon from Mr. Constantine.
Who the blazes is Mr. Constantine?
He's a gentleman I met on the plane. Apparently he, too, is interested in the spectacles.
What do you mean?
He offered me £10,000 for them.
£10,000?
Where are the spectacles? Where are they?
Did you sell them to this Mr. Constantine?
What would you have done, Mr. Armstrong, under the circumstances?
What Armstrong or anybody else would have done is quite beside the point. My guess is you still got the spectacles. Or if you haven't got them, you know where they are. Now start talking. Mr. Temple, I'm a pretty serious sort of guy. I take things very much to heart. You saw what happened to Thompson.
Thompson?
He was the man you met on the drive.
Oh, yes. I saw what happened to Thompson.
Thompson was a nice fellow, but he started to get sentimental. I don't like sentimentality, Mr. Temple, any more than I like stupidity. Now, just at the moment, you strike me as being very stupid. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to tell me exactly where those glasses are. If you don't tell me, I shall pull this trigger. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5...
It's the phone.
Okay, answer it.
Right.
If you've no objection, I think I'll change my mind about the glass of port.
Stay where you are.
Very well. May I have a cigarette?
There's a box on that table. You can reach it without getting up. Help yourself.
Thanks.
There's a lighter by the box.
You don't believe in taking any chances, do you, Colonel?
Well, who was it?
You were wrong about this fella. Dead wrong.
What do you mean? Who was on the phone?
It was the man he told us about. Constantine, the man on the flying boat.
Well?
He wants to see you now, tonight, at the El Pasaro.
Why?
He's got the glasses. Temple did sell them to him for £10,000.
Did you sell those glasses? Did you? I'm going to give you 3 seconds to tell me whether... Look out! Look out! Get the revolver! Get the revolver!
Oh, my wrist!
Drop it! Drop it!
My wrist! My wrist! You're breaking it! You...
Drop it!
Oh!
Now, stand over there. Go on.
Don't shoot, Temple.
Go on. Further away.
What are you going to do?
Now, Mr. Armstrong, I want to know about the glasses.
What do you mean?
You know what I mean. Why did Mr. Constantine offer me £10,000 for them?
I don't know.
Why is our charming little friend down here so determined to get possession of them?
I don't know. I tell you, I don't know.
Look, I'm beginning to get irritated. I want to know about those glasses.
There's nothing I can tell you about them. Absolutely nothing. Other than the fact that...
Go on.
The first time I met Marquand was 6 weeks ago in Cairo. He told me that a friend of his, a man called Richard Sullivan, had lost a pair of horn-rimmed spectacles and that he, Marquand, was prepared to pay £4,000 for them. At first I thought the man was crazy and that the whole business was a sort of practical joke. Later, however, he paid me £2,000 in advance and commissioned me to find the glasses.
Did you ever meet this friend of Marquand's, this Richard Sullivan?
No.
What were you doing in Bournemouth?
I went to Bournemouth to interview Joyce Raymond.
Did you? That's very interesting. When I interviewed Miss Raymond, or rather when she interviewed me, it was in London. Then for some reason or other she took it into her head to dash down to Bournemouth. Why, I wonder? Incidentally, who told you about Joyce Raymond in the first place?
Marquand did. He said she might have information about the spectacles.
Did you see Miss Raymond in Bournemouth? Well, did you?
No.
You know what happened to her?
Yes, I read about it. It was most unfortunate.
Most unfortunate.
Why are you looking at me like that?
Did you murder Joyce Raymond?
No! No! I swear I didn't!
That place that Constantine mentioned, the El Pasaro, what is it?
It's a cafe.
Where?
In Syracuse. Oh, he's coming round.
Gee, God, my head. What happened? What hit me?
He's all yours, Mr. Armstrong. Give the gentleman a glass of port.
Paul!
Where are you, Steve?
I'm over here, near the tree.
Oh.
Are you all right, darling?
Yes.
I was beginning to get worried. What happened?
I'll tell you later, Steve. Have you got the glasses?
Why, yes.
Give them to me.
It's all right, Paul. I can take care of them.
Give them to me. Thanks. Now, what happened after I left you?
Well, that rather bad-tempered little manservant.
Yes.
He carried the other man, the man that was shot, down that path.
Which path?
That one, the one over there.
Go on.
I followed him part of the way. The path leads down to a private beach. There's a boathouse at the bottom. I stood watching him for a little while. It was getting dark, though, and I couldn't see very well.
What was he doing?
I think he was trying to put the man that was shot into a boat. After a little while, I felt frightened and ran back to the gate.
How far down is the boathouse?
Oh, about 300 yards.
I've got to report this business, Steve, but the trouble is, if I don't produce the body, nobody's likely to believe my story.
All right. Let's go down to the beach and have a look round.
Good girl.
You can tell me what happened in the house on the way down.
Of course, it's pretty obvious from his telephone call what Constantine's trying to do. He's obviously going to try and sell Marquand another pair of spectacles.
Yes. I wonder if Marquand knows the real spectacles when he sees them. You know, there must be something pretty big behind all this, darling. After all, Constantine offered you £10,000 for them, and he must think that Marquand's prepared to bid even higher.
Yes.
Did you ask him about the glasses?
No. As soon as he started to come round, I made a dash for it. Frankly, he's not exactly the sort of man you want to take a chance on.
He looked a pretty tough customer.
He's tough, all right.
How does Armstrong fit into it all?
Armstrong says he knew nothing about the glasses, but simply followed out Marquand's instructions. Frankly, I think he's telling the truth. I've got a hunch that Thompson, the fellow that was murdered, was in more or less the same position. You know, something frightened Thompson. Something I said to him over the telephone when he was pretending to be Richard Sullivan. I'm pretty sure that's how the row started and why Marquand went for him.
Well, you hinted that something had happened to Joyce Raymond. If he didn't know that Joyce had been murdered...
Then he might have jumped to conclusions about the murder and picked a row with Armstrong, yes. Yes, that's quite possible, Steve.
Oh, be careful here, darling. There's a turning. There's the beach. Down there.
There's the boathouse. Oh, I see it. It looks rather a tricky sort of path. Give me a hand. Do you think you can manage it all right?
Yes. Yes, I think so.
Watch your step.
No, it's all right.
Be careful, darling.
It's not so bad here.
No, keep hold of my hand.
Oh,
steady. What is it?
Listen.
That's coming from the beach. There must be someone down there. Yes, there's someone at the bottom of the path. Look, Steve.
Who is it?
Come on. We'll soon see. Hold the torch.
Who is it?
It's that Italian fellow, the servant. The man that brought Thompson down here.
But what's happened to him?
He's been knocked out by someone. Hold the torch up.
Oh, look at his head.
He's only been stunned. He'll be all right in an hour or so.
Paul, what do you think happened?
I don't know. He must have been on his way back to the house. Someone must have crept up behind him and taken him by surprise. Anyway, let's have a look at the boathouse.
If he was on his way back to the villa, Paul, then he must have already disposed of the body of Thompson. I mean...
Yes. Unless, of course... Let's have a look round, darling.
But Paul, ought we to leave this man like this?
Well, there's nothing we can do for him. He'll be all right. Come on, Steve. Give me your hand. It's rather a luxurious sort of boathouse. Where's the door?
There it is.
Oh, yes. Now, don't make any more noise than you can help.
Yes, all right.
The door's locked.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Is there a keyhole?
Of course there's a keyhole, darling. The door is locked.
Yes, I know. But can you see through it?
No, it's far too dark. Wait a minute there. I've got some keys here somewhere. Ah, here we are. It's not much good, I'm afraid. Wait a minute, though. I think I've got one here that... Yeah, that's it. Yes. Keep behind me, darling, just in case.
Here's the torch.
Thanks.
The place seems deserted. There isn't... Paul! There's Thompson. Look, in the corner.
Yes, I see him.
That man must have just brought him down here and dumped... Paul, what is it?
This isn't Thompson. It's Mr. Constantine. Don't come too near, darling.
What's happened to him?
He's been stabbed. Hold the torch.
Is he dead?
Yes.
How long has he been dead, do you know?
It's difficult to tell. But he's certainly been dead an hour or so, perhaps even longer.
But he can't have been Paul.
Why? What are you thinking of? That telephone call to Marquand?
Yes.
Well, that can't have been Constantine. Can't possibly have been Constantine.
Then who was it?
I wish I knew.
Paul, what are we going to do? You'll have to contact the police.
Whoever made that telephone call is at the El Pasaro Cafe waiting for Marquand.
Where is this place? In Augusta?
No, it's in Syracuse, about 12 miles away.
Oh.
We'll go back to the hotel and I'll phone the police from there. Then
what?
Then we'll go on to the El Pasaro. I'm rather anxious to take a look at this gentleman who claims to be Mr. Constantine. You wait here, Steve. I'll go up to the room and telephone.
Yes, all right.
Oh, and you might try and find out how far this El Pasaro place really is. If it's very far, do your best to get hold of a car or a buggy. Shan't be long.
All right, darling.
Oh, hello, Miss Fraser.
Hello, Mr. Temple. You appear to be in rather a hurry.
Yes, I'm afraid I am.
Well, you know what they say, more hurry the less...
Your bag, Miss Fraser.
I don't know why it is, but I always seem to be dropping my bag these days. I just can't... Oh, no, don't bother, Mr. Temple. Really, it's quite all right.
That's all right, Miss Fraser. Here's your handkerchief. And your comb.
Thank you.
And your powder compact.
Oh, thank you. Oh, no, please, Mrs. Temple, please don't bother.
Here's your purse.
Really, it makes me feel quite helpless. You'll hardly believe it, but do you know that's the third time I've dropped my bag in the last 24 hours? If it happens again, I swear I'll throw
Look out.
Oh, my... Oh, God bless my soul. I nearly dropped the blessed thing again. Whatever is the matter with you women? You're a bag of nerves.
Are you just going to have dinner, Miss Fraser?
Me? Oh, no. I'm just going upstairs to change. Believe it or not, I've got a date.
A date? That's quick work.
Yes, there's life in the old girl yet.
See you later, Steve.
Yes, all right.
Good night, Mrs. Temple.
Good night, Miss Fraser. Are you engaged?
Where do you want to go?
We want to go to the El Pasaro.
We?
My husband and I. He'll be out in a moment.
El Pasaro? It's a long way. Cost a lot of money.
Well, how much money?
Don't know, just cost a lot of money.
Well, how much?
How much you got?
Now listen to me, Gordon Richards.
No, Pascal, Georges Pascal.
Well, listen to me, Mr. Pascal.
Count Pascal, if you please.
Count Pascal. Are you really a count?
Yes.
Well, I'm a duchess. Drive us to the El Pasaro. We seem to have been travelling for hours, Paul.
Yes. I'll have a word with the driver. I say,
Monsieur?
how much further have we got to go?
To the top of the hill, monsieur. Then you will see the El Pasaro.
What sort of a place is it?
Pardon, mademoiselle?
I say, I like that mademoiselle touch.
My wife says, what sort of a place is it?
You have not been there before? It is very nice. Everybody goes to the El Pasaro at this time of the year.
Who runs the place? You know?
Runs the... Oh, the owner. It is a man called Schreider. He is a very clever young man. He has a cafe in Naples, a cafe in Palermo, a cafe in Brindisi, cafes all over the place.
Sounds a very clever young man.
You haven't told me what the police said.
I was rather lucky. I got hold of a man called Rossetti. Apart from speaking pretty good English, he seems a very sensible sort of fellow. He apparently met Sir Graham about 2 or 3 years ago, so that was a great help.
Did you tell him about the glasses?
I told him part of the story. The local people have apparently had their eye on Marquand for some time.
Well, what's happening? Are you meeting this man, Rossetti?
Yes. I've arranged to see him at the El Pasaro.
Pardon, monsieur.
Yes, what is it?
There is El Pasaro, monsieur, at the top of the hill.
Oh, yes. It looks rather nice.
We shall be there in a few moments, mademoiselle.
Buonasera, signore e signora.
We'd like a table for 2, if you please.
You have reserved a table, signor?
No, I'm afraid we haven't.
I hate to disappoint you, signor, but we are very full. You can see for yourself.
What seems to be the trouble, Charlotte?
The gentleman wishes a table for 2, Herr Schrader. It is impossible.
Nothing is impossible at the El Pasaro. I have told you that before. If you will wait a few moments, sir, I will see what I can do.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
There's someone waving to us. That man over there.
Where?
It's Mr. Darwin.
So it is.
He's coming over.
Well, hello. Fancy bumping into you two again.
Hello, Darwin.
What are you doing, waiting for a table?
Yes, matter of fact, we are.
Well, join me. I'd be delighted.
Are you alone?
At the moment, yes. I am expecting a guest, but that's all right.
That's awfully nice of you.
Don't be silly, old boy. Delighted. Come along, Mrs. Temple. Bring another chair, waiter.
Si, signore.
Mrs. Temple?
Thank you.
Well, this is a pleasant surprise.
I hope we haven't butted in on a party or anything.
Oh, nonsense, of course you haven't.
Cigarette?
Oh, thanks, old boy. Have you been here before?
To Syracuse?
No, I mean here, to the El Pasaro.
No, I'm afraid I haven't.
Chap told me about it in Paris, ages ago. Smashing place, he said. Absolutely smashing. By George, he's right.
It's certainly very gay.
He's a very bright lad, you know, this fellow Schreider, I mean. He's got cafes dotted all over the place.
Yes, I believe.
What time is it?
It's just 9:15.
Oh.
Is your friend late?
Yes, I'm rather afraid. Ah, here we are, at last.
I'm so sorry I'm late, Mr. Darwin. Good evening, Mrs. Temple. Mr. Temple. This is a pleasant surprise.
Good evening.
Good evening, Miss Fraser. So, this is your date.
That was the third episode of the Francis Durbridge serial, Paul Temple and the Sullivan Mystery, with Crawford Logan as Paul Temple and Gerda Stevenson as Steve. Others taking part were Richard Greenwood, Eliza Langland, Angus McInnes, Michael Mackenzie, and Nick Underwood. The production was by Patrick Rayner. We present Crawford Logan as Paul Temple and Gerda Stevenson as Steve in Paul Temple and the Sullivan Mystery, a serial by Francis Durbridge. Episode 4, Cairo.
This is a pleasant surprise.
I hope we haven't butted in on a party or anything, Mr. Darwin.
Oh, nonsense, of course you haven't, Mrs. Temple.
Cigarette?
Oh, thanks, old boy. Have you been here before?
To Syracuse?
No, I mean here, to the El Pasaro.
No, I'm afraid I haven't.
Chap told me about it in Paris, ages ago. Smashing place, he said. Absolutely smashing. By George, he's right.
It's certainly very gay.
He's a very bright lad, you know, this fellow Schreider, I mean. He's got cafes dotted all over the place.
Yes, I believe.
What time is it?
It's just 9:15.
Oh.
Is your friend late?
Yes, I'm rather afraid. Ah, here we are, at last.
I'm so sorry I'm late, Mr. Darwin. Good evening, Mrs. Temple. Mr. Temple. This is a pleasant surprise.
Good evening.
Good evening, Miss Fraser. So, this is your date?
Yes.
How do you feel after the journey?
Oh, I feel fine. I wouldn't have missed it for the world.
Do sit down here.
Thank you. Quite looking forward to tomorrow morning, you know, and the rest of the trip. Now, what did I do with my handbag? I'm always losing it. Oh, here it is.
Miss Fraser and I have discovered that we have a great deal in common, haven't we, Miss Fraser?
Yes, I should say so. Mr. Darwin's a great friend of my brother's. They've met several times, isn't that so?
Oh, yes, rather, several times. Awfully nice chap. We do a lot of work for the TEOC people, you know. I think I mentioned it to you.
Oh, yes.
Miss Fraser's brother has a very important position with the TEOC.
Really?
Yes. Well, what would you like, Miss Fraser?
The menu, signore?
Oh, thank you. Have you ordered?
No, as a matter of fact, we haven't. What do you feel like, Mrs. Temple?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes?
Herr Schreider would like to see you if you can spare a few moments.
Yes, certainly. Excuse me.
Well, to start with, I think it would be an awfully good idea if we ordered a bottle or two of wine. Certainly.
Herr Schreider?
Yes?
Oh, of course, you are Mr. Temple.
Yes.
There is a gentleman to see you from the police. Signore Rossetti. He is in my office. Would you come this way, please?
Herr Schreider.
Yes?
Do you happen to know a gentleman, I think he's a patron of yours, by the name of Constantine?
Constantine? No, I can't say I do.
I believe he's here in the cafe this evening. Could you contact him for me?
If he is here, but of course. Certainly.
Thank you.
This way, please.
Mr. Temple. Thank you, signore. Now, if you will be so kind as to leave us for a moment.
Of course.
Thank you. Mr. Temple?
Yes.
My name is Rossetti. We spoke over the telephone about an hour ago. Would you sit down, please? It is an honor to make your acquaintance, signore. By sheer coincidence, I have only just finished reading one of your novels, Crime alla Villa España. It was most engrossing, if a little far-fetched. However, let us get to business. After you telephoned, my men visited the villa in Negara. There was no trace of the man Thompson. We did, however, as you said, find the body of a Mr. Constantine in the cabin.
And Colonel Marquand?
There was, I regret to say, no sign of Colonel Marquand or his colleague, Mr. Armstrong. But please, first, let me hear your side of the story.
A young woman called Joyce Raymond asked me to deliver a pair of spectacles to a friend of hers in Cairo called Richard Sullivan. Shortly after she gave me the spectacles, Miss Raymond was murdered. This morning, coming out here on the plane, a man called Constantine offered me £10,000 for the spectacles. I refused. But when I arrived at Augusta, I received a phone call from a man claiming to be Richard Sullivan. He said he was staying with a Colonel Marquand. When my wife and I turned up at the Villa Negara, this man, who incidentally was called Thompson, was attempting to escape from the villa. He did escape, but was unfortunately shot. I went back to the house with Colonel Marquand, and he tried to pass off his friend Armstrong as Richard Sullivan. When he realized the game was up, he got tough with me, and was about to get really nasty when he received a telephone call from Mr. Constantine. Mr. Constantine said he had the glasses, and would be willing to do a deal with Marquand if he would meet him here tonight at the El Pasaro.
Yeah, but it could not have been Constantine, because...
Because Constantine was already dead. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. We've been watching this fellow Marquand for some little time. Frankly, we do not know what he's up to. He took a short lease on the Villa Negara just before Christmas of last year. The other man, Armstrong, what is he like?
He's about medium height, well-dressed, sandy-coloured hair. I noticed he was wearing a signet ring on the little finger of his left hand.
I beg your pardon, Signore Rossetti, but...
Please, come in, Schreider.
I have made inquiries about the gentleman you asked me about, Mr. Temple. Mr. Constantine?
Well?
He is not in the cafe, sir.
You're sure?
Quite sure, sir. Whether he has been here earlier this evening, I do not know.
Is this Mr. Constantine an habitué of the El Pasaro?
The name is quite unknown to me, Signore. Quite unknown.
Schreider, tell me, is it not true that you are a friend of Colonel Marquand?
Well, hardly a friend, Signore. An acquaintance, perhaps?
Yeah, but you have on occasion visited the Villa Negara.
On 2 occasions, Signore. That is all.
Well, perhaps you will be kind enough to bear in mind, Herr Schreider, that Colonel Marquand is wanted by the Poliziotto.
By the Poliziotto?
For questioning, that is all. Should he visit the El Pasaro, however...
you will be informed instantly, Signore.
Thank you, Herr Schreider.
Thank you, Signore.
I gather he's quite a shrewd young man.
Herr Schreider?
Yes.
They tell me he's very shrewd. When are you leaving us, Mr. Temple?
Tomorrow morning.
For Cairo?
Yes.
And are you staying in Cairo for very long?
It's difficult to say. A fortnight, 3 weeks, perhaps even longer.
Where are you staying?
You can get in touch with me at the Hotel Continental.
Thank you, Signore. Oh, one little point.
Yes?
Just out of curiosity, Signore, have you got the glasses on you? Could I perhaps examine them?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you.
Well?
They appear to be a perfectly ordinary pair of spectacles. It is most odd. Most odd. Here you are, Signore.
Thank you.
And I hope that you will have a very pleasant journey tomorrow.
Thank you. I hope so, too.
Mrs. Temple, look, we're just passing over the coast.
Yes.
How far are we from Cairo now, Darwin?
About 45, 50 minutes, that's all.
I suppose we're not very far from El Alamein.
No, there's the road. You can see it.
Is that the famous road? The one they took the supplies along?
Yes, that's it.
Would you care for a peppermint, Mrs. Temple?
No, thank you.
It's pretty dull for the next 15 minutes or so, I'm afraid. Would you like a cigarette?
Oh, thanks.
What are those small squares? Down there, darling?
No.
It's just farmland, Mrs. Temple. You know, strips that have been cultivated.
I don't see the Nile.
What's that?
I said I don't see the Nile.
Oh, I don't see it either.
You're not looking, you silly chump.
As a matter of fact, it's awfully difficult to pick it out.
You can see the villages very clearly. Oh, it's extraordinary how they stand out.
Yes.
That road we passed over, the long, straight macadam road, was that the road from Alexandria?
Yes, you probably noticed the aerodromes, that relics of the war.
No, I'm afraid I didn't.
Well, one of them was Cairo West, or... now, what was it?
LG 224.
Yes, that's right, Miss Fraser. LG 224. Used to be pretty well known to transport command passengers.
It's getting a wee bit bumpy.
Yes, we're not quite so high.
I'm beginning to feel quite excited.
We can't be far from Cairo now.
Look, there's a light over the door. The panel's lit up. What does it say?
Oh, no smoking.
Fasten your safety belts, please. And let me help you, madam. Fasten your belts, please. Fasten your safety belts, please. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been informed by the captain that we are a few minutes ahead of schedule and that he's making a wide approach to Cairo. If you look out from the port side, you'll see the pyramids. Fasten your safety belt, please, sir.
I don't see any sign of the pyramids, Stuart.
There they are, Miss Fraser. Look.
I see them.
Good gracious me, yes.
Is that the Sphinx?
Where? Yes, that's it. Looks very small, I'm afraid, from here.
There's Cairo.
There's the Nile, Mrs. Temple.
Are we going to land on that?
I'm afraid we are.
Look, darling, it runs right through the city.
Look at that bridge, Paul.
We'll be on the water in a minute.
I should say so. We're almost level with the banks of the river now.
There we are.
We're on the water.
Well, here we are, darling. At last.
Cairo.
Hello, who is that, please?
This is Cairo 78926, Trans-Eurasian Oil Company.
Could I speak to Mr. Sullivan, please?
Who is calling?
My name is Temple.
Hold the line, please.
What's happening?
I think she's putting me through.
Hello? Who are you calling?
Mr. Sullivan. Mr. Richard Sullivan.
One moment.
If the Detroit people get difficult, I shall turn the whole thing over to McFarland. Hello?
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes?
Is that Mr. Sullivan speaking personally?
Yes?
Well, this is Temple here, Paul Temple. I've got your glasses.
My what?
Your glasses. Your spectacles.
But don't be ridiculous. I'm wearing them.
That is Mr. Sullivan?
Yes, this is Sullivan.
Well, I've got your glasses. The pair that Miss Raymond gave me.
Miss Raymond? Who's Miss Raymond? Is this some kind of joke, old boy?
Look here. Are you or are you not Richard Sullivan?
This is Clarence Sullivan, extension 72, export department.
Oh, that explains it. I'm sorry, I'm afraid they put me through to the wrong office.
Well, who is it you want? I'll get you transferred.
Well, I want Mr. Richard Sullivan.
Richard Sullivan?
Yes.
I suppose you know that this is the Trans-Eurasian Oil Company, Cairo 78926?
Yes, I know that. I want Mr. Richard Sullivan.
I'm the only Sullivan here, old boy. There isn't another Sullivan. Not with the TEOC.
You sure?
Absolutely sure.
I see. Well, I'm sorry you've been troubled.
That's all right. It's made a nice break.
Well?
There isn't a Richard Sullivan. Not with the TEOC.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
No, neither am I.
I had the feeling that this would happen when he didn't meet the plane.
Yes. And yet Miss Raymond said he was with the TEOC. Why should she say that, I wonder, unless...
Unless what?
Nothing. I was just thinking. I expect you're pretty hungry.
Hungry and curious, darling. I'm dying to see Cairo.
All right, let's go down and have a drink, and then we'll go for a stroll.
Yes, all right. Paul, are you worried about this business, about the glasses, I mean?
I think we've got to be careful.
In view of what's happened, that's a delightful understatement. What are you going to do with them?
I suppose the most sensible thing would be to hand them over to the police. And yet, I'd really like to get to the bottom of this, Steve, and find out what it's all about.
Yes, I think I would too, darling.
Let's go down and have that drink. Here's a stool, dear.
Oh, thanks.
What can I get you, sir?
What would you like, Steve?
Well, I don't know. What does one usually drink out here?
You drink what you feel like. Dry martini?
Yes, I'll have a dry martini.
Dry martini and a whiskey and soda.
Thank you, sir.
Could I trouble you for a light, sir?
Certainly. There you are.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you, very kind. You know, I don't think there's anything I enjoy quite so much as a good cigar. But, Dad, I think it's going to be troublesome. Could I encroach on your kindness once again?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. That's better. Much more satisfactory. I'm indebted to you, sir.
That's all right.
Dry martini, whiskey and soda.
Thank you. Keep the change.
Can I get you anything, sir?
Yes. I'd like a brandy and soda. Large.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I beg your pardon, ma'am. Did the smoke from a cigar...
Oh, no, that's quite all right.
Very careless of me.
It's quite all right, really.
No, 'twas careless, ma'am, and I apologise. Have you just arrived in Cairo, sir?
Yes, this afternoon.
Your first visit, ma'am?
Yes.
And yours, sir?
No, I've been here before.
You know it well?
Well, I wouldn't say I know it well.
No, of course not. A stupid question, sir.
Brandy, sir?
Thank you. Thank you, boy. Ah, how I envy you. How I envy you, ma'am, seeing this ancient, illustrious city for the first time.
I must confess I'm looking forward to it.
Show her everything, sir. The pyramids, the Sphinx, the Mosque of El Hakim, the exquisite Maristan. Don't neglect your duty. Show her everything. Remember, he who hath not seen Cairo hath not seen the world. Its soil is gold. Its Nile is a wonder. Its women are like the black-eyed virgins of paradise. Your very good health, sir. And yours too, ma'am.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Should you wish to return to the land of austerity with a small choice memento of your brief sojourn in this historic capital, may I respectfully draw your attention to the House of Bari, from which flowery phraseology you'll gather that I am nothing more or less than a glorified tout. However, permit me to introduce myself. The name is Quinn. Patrick Norman Quinn.
Glad to meet you, Mr. Quinn. My name is Temple.
Temple? Temple, did you say? Now, that's a name that strikes a familiar note. Temple. It escapes me. Just for the moment, the significance of the name escapes me.
Who's that man you mentioned, Bari?
Zoltan Bari. He's a Turk. He has a curio shop in the Avenue Shulamar. You should go there, ma'am. I'll give you the address. I have a card somewhere with the... here we are. Take it.
Thank you.
Mention my name. Don't forget to mention my name. Quinn, sir. Quinn. Patrick Norman Quinn.
We shan't forget.
'Tis the commission I'm concerned with, of course. That you'll readily understand.
Would you like another brandy and soda, Mr. Quinn?
No, I'll be making a move. I'm showing a party of distinguished ladies and gentlemen round the city this evening. You wouldn't care to join the party, I suppose?
Do you recommend it?
Professionally, I can't speak too highly of the project. But speaking to you as a friend, privately, as you might say, I should give it a miss. It'll be as dull as dishwater and as boring as blazes.
That's frank enough.
You'll find me dishonest, ma'am, but strictly frank. If I can be of any service to you at any time, night or day, just speak to the concierge. He'll know where to find me.
We'll bear that in mind, Mr. Quinn.
You would be well advised to, sir. Good night, ma'am. Good night, sir.
He's quite a character.
Yes, but a little goes a very long way. Well, how about that stroll, darling?
I'm ready. Oh,
What is it?
my ring, my diamond ring. I must have left it in the bathroom.
That wasn't very bright. I'll run up and get it.
No, I'll go. I can also powder my nose. See you in the hall.
Yes, all right. Have you got the key?
Yes.
Don't be long.
Now, Where's the switch? Who is that? Who is it?
Don't touch that switch. Do you hear me? Don't touch it.
Who are you? What do you want?
If you touch that switch,
Don't come near me. Do you hear what I say? Don't you dare come near me.
Why, you little... Oh.
Leave me alone. Take your hands off me.
Keep your mouth shut, you little fool.
Take your hands off.
You little vixen. I'll teach you to open your mouth and... Do you hear what I say? Keep your mouth closed. Ow! My hand! You bit me, you little...
Say, what on earth is going on?
Oh!
Are you all right?
Has he gone? Has he?
Yes, he's gone all right. He went through the window and over the balcony.
He must have come in that way.
Yes, the poor flushing Romeo.
Would you be good enough to...
Now, just a minute. Relax. Take it easy. Lie on the bed.
It's a good job. You heard me.
It's a mighty good job I heard you. That wolf was just about getting into his stride.
I feel better now.
Good.
Would you mind getting my husband? He's waiting for me downstairs near the reception desk. The name's Temple.
Okay. Will you be all right?
Yes, I think so.
I'll close the window. You know, it's a peculiar thing that nothing like this ever happens to me. You can laugh, sister, but it's pretty serious. I'll fetch that husband of yours. And by the way, the name's Jeans. Sydney Jeans.
Well, I'm very grateful to you, Miss Jeans.
That's all right. You can do the same for me sometime, I hope.
Are you really all right, dear?
Yes, quite all right, darling.
If there's anything I can do, just let me know.
You've been awfully kind, Miss Jeans. We're very grateful.
Think nothing of it. It was just the old routine so far as I was concerned. Although, come to think of it, I don't think I've scared him away quite so fast before.
Now, we're going for a stroll, and then we shall have a spot of dinner. Would you like to join us?
That's very sweet of you, but actually I've got a date.
Secretly, I bet you just string him along.
The female Rasputin, that's me. After all, what's Barbara Stanwyck got that I haven't got? And don't say Robert Taylor. I'm right next door if you want me any time. Don't knock, just walk straight in.
Okay.
See you later.
Here's your ring. It was in the bathroom.
Oh, thanks.
Do you feel like going out? Or...
Yes, I'm all right now.
Sure?
Sure.
What happened?
He was searching the room. I disturbed him.
Did you recognize him?
Yes. It was the man we saw in Bournemouth, the man you met in Augusta with Colonel Marquand.
Armstrong?
Yes.
You sure?
Yes, Paul.
Well, this is how he got in. He wouldn't have much difficulty with this balcony. I'll speak to the manager tomorrow morning. We'll change the room.
It's a pity. It's a lovely view, darling.
Yes.
What's that place?
Where?
Over there.
It's the university.
I suppose there's no doubt about what he wanted.
What do you think? He was after the glasses, all right? Well, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready, darling.
Well, did you enjoy it?
Enormously.
You haven't seen anything yet.
I don't know about that. I feel as if I've been walking for hours. My feet.
Have you got the key?
Yes.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes?
Mr. Temple?
Yes?
There is a gentleman to see you, sir. He has been waiting for some little time.
To see me?
Yes, sir. It is the commandant from the governorate.
Where is he?
He's in my office, sir. Will you come this way, please?
Yes, certainly. I shan't be a moment, darling. I'll see you in the lounge.
Yes, all right.
Mr. Temple?
Yes?
My name is Hakim. Commandant Lewa Hakim from the governorate.
What can I do for you, Commandant?
I am making investigations concerning a man called Quinn. Patrick Norman Quinn. Correct me if I'm mistaken, but he is, I believe, a friend of yours.
I'm afraid you're very much mistaken, sir.
Does that mean he is not a friend of yours?
It most certainly does.
I think perhaps that I ought to warn you that you were seen together earlier this evening, drinking in the cocktail bar.
Did you see us?
No, one of my men saw you.
Did he? Now, that's very interesting.
How long have you known this man?
Which man?
Quinn, the man we are talking about.
The man you're talking about, Commandant. However, to satisfy your curiosity, Mr. Quinn introduced himself to me for the first time this evening at about 7:15.
And he left you?
He left us, that is, my wife and me, at about 6 or 7 minutes to.
You have not seen him since?
No. Now, why, may I ask, are you asking these questions?
Don't you know why?
Well, if I know, I shouldn't ask you, should I?
Quinn was murdered.
Murdered?
Yes.
When?
Shortly after leaving you this evening.
How was he murdered?
He was shot between the eyes, at very close quarters. It was most unfortunate for Mr. Quinn.
I'm sorry. I rather like the old boy. Still, I'm afraid there's nothing I can tell you, Commandant. Nothing you don't already know.
Very well. Oh, I should like to see your passport.
Well, here it is.
Thank you. You may go.
Over here, darling.
Oh, hello.
I've ordered some coffee.
Oh, good.
Paul, is anything the matter?
Yes. You remember that fellow we met in the cocktail bar?
Quinn, yes.
He's been murdered.
Murdered? When?
Shortly after he left us. Apparently he was shot.
Oh, dear. Poor man, he was rather nice.
Steve, he gave you a card, didn't he? With an address on it.
Yes, that's right. The man with the curio shop, Avenue Shulamar. Here it is.
Zoltan Bari, art dealer, curios of speciality, 227 Avenue Shulamar, English visitors welcome.
What are you thinking?
I was just wondering if by any chance Mr. Quinn...
What is it?
Have you seen the other side of this card? Have you seen what he's drawn on the other side?
No.
Well, look.
Why? It's a pair of spectacles.
That was the 4th episode of the Francis Durbridge serial, Paul Temple and the Sullivan Mystery, with Crawford Logan as Paul Temple and Gerda Stevenson as Steve. Others taking part were Richard Greenwood, Eliza Langland, Michael Mackenzie, Greg Powery, Wendy Seeger, Gareth Thomas, and Nick Underwood. The production was by Patrick Rayner. We present Crawford Logan as Paul Temple and Gerda Stevenson as Steve in Paul Temple and the Sullivan Mystery, a serial by Francis Durbridge. Episode 5, The House of Bari.
You remember that fellow we met in the cocktail bar, the sandy-haired little chap?
Quinn, yes.
He's been murdered.
Murdered? When?
Shortly after he left us. Apparently he was shot.
Oh, poor man.
Steve, he gave you a card, didn't he? With an address on it.
Yes, that's right. The man with the antique shop, Avenue Shulamar. Here it is.
Zoltan Bari, art dealer, curios of speciality, 227 Avenue Shulamar, English visitors welcome.
What are you thinking?
I was just wondering if by any chance Mr. Quinn...
What is it?
Have you seen the other side of this card? Have you seen what he's drawn on the back?
No.
Well, look.
Why, it's a pair of spectacles.
Yes.
Patrick Quinn told us to take this card to Mr. Barry, didn't he?
Yeah, well?
I've got a hunch that Mr. Quinn was waiting for us. He knew that we were staying in the hotel and that sooner or later we'd drift into the cocktail bar. I think that if you present this card to Zoltan Bari, he'll make you an offer for the spectacles.
Well, I've already had one offer. Constantine offered me £10,000 for them.
What are you going to do about the spectacles, Paul? Obviously, we can't just carry them about with us.
No, you're right. I'm not taking any more chances. I'm taking them down to the bank first thing tomorrow morning. They'll stay there until the real Mr. Sullivan puts in an appearance.
If there is a real Mr. Sullivan.
Hello. Have you changed your mind? I thought you were under the impression that Harold Darwin was Richard Sullivan.
I don't know. Sometimes I think that Richard Sullivan might be just a name. Possibly I was wrong about Darwin, and Joyce Raymond intended that we should deliver the spectacles to, well, to someone else.
Someone that ought to have met us the moment we stepped off the plane.
Yes.
Yes. But what's the mystery behind these glasses? Why was Constantine willing to pay £10,000 for them? That's what I'd like to know.
I don't care what the police say. They can't be just an ordinary pair of spectacles.
Darling, they are an ordinary pair of spectacles. That's the extraordinary part about it.
Well, in the first place... Oh, here's Miss Jeans.
Hello there.
Hello.
Are you feeling any better?
Yes, I'm all right, thanks.
Good.
We've just ordered some coffee. Would you care to join us?
Well, now, that's very sweet of you. May I?
Yes, of course.
We'd be delighted.
Oh, gosh. I'm tired. My feet. Holy smoker, they'd given me what for. I don't know whether you find it so, but I think this place is pretty tiring.
We only arrived this afternoon, so it's early days.
Mind you, I like the place, but... Gee, my dogs. How long are you staying?
In Cairo? Oh, a fortnight or 3 weeks. It rather depends.
I should think you've got a pretty awful impression of the place, Mrs. Temple, after what happened this evening.
Oh, I don't know. I suppose that sort of thing could happen almost anywhere.
Yeah, it could, but the fact remains it happened here. Still, I'm glad you've got over it. Have you changed your room yet?
Not yet. I'll probably speak to the manager tomorrow morning.
Yes, do. This place fascinates me. I came here for 2 weeks and I've already stayed 5. The way things are going, I shall probably spend the rest of my life in this crazy town.
You must know Cairo pretty well, Miss Jeans. Tell me, where exactly is the Avenue Shulamar?
Avenue Shulamar?
Yes.
It's in the old part of the town, about 300 or 400 yards from the east wall.
Oh, I think I know what you mean.
Are you thinking of going there?
Yes, someone recommended a shop to us, a curio shop. The House of Bari. You've probably heard of it?
No, I can't say I have. Of course, you've got to be careful around here, you know. Otherwise, you'll find yourself loaded down with a lot of junk that comes from good old Birmingham. And I don't mean Birmingham, Alabama. Curios are a dime a hundredweight.
Well, this place, the House of Bari, was recommended to me by a man called Quinn. He seemed a decent sort of chap. He introduced himself to us at the cocktail bar.
Yeah, well, that's just the sort of thing you've got to be careful of. Quinn's all right.
You know him?
I've seen him around. He's an Irish man, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, I know the fella you mean. Frankly, I wouldn't have too much to do with him.
Well, there's no fear of that.
What do you mean?
Mr. Quinn's dead.
What?
He was murdered.
When?
Sometime this evening.
Are you sure about this? Who told you?
The police.
The police? What happened?
Apparently he was shot.
I can hardly believe it. I saw him earlier this evening. He was sitting at the bar. The poor little guy didn't look as if he'd got a care in the world. Shot, you say? Who did it? Do they know?
No, I don't think they do.
But, gee, I can hardly believe it. Who'd want to do a thing like that anyway? Pat Quinn of all the people.
Here's the waiter, darling.
What would you like, Miss Jeans?
Can I have some coffee?
Yes, of course. Bring another cup, waiter.
Yes, sir.
Miss Jeans.
Yes?
Did you recognize the man in our room?
I recognize him? Why, no.
Would you know him again if you saw him?
No, I don't think I would. I saw him, of course, quite clearly, but it's very doubtful whether I should recognize him again. What about you, Mrs. Temple?
Yes, I think I would.
Well, that's something. Hey, if you see the skunk when I'm around, just holler. I'll be right there. And, lady, I'll tan the hide off that guy.
Will you have a cigarette?
Thanks.
Steve?
No, thanks.
You know, I can't get over what you've told me. Quinn, of all people. Now, why should anyone want to murder him?
Well, your guess is as good as mine, Miss Jeans. It might be even better. What's the matter, Steve?
I can't get to sleep. It's so hot.
Shall I open the windows?
They're wide open already.
What time is it?
I don't know. We seem to have been in bed for hours.
I'll switch the light on.
Oh, it's 4:45.
Oh, I thought it was later than that.
I'm going out onto the balcony. I simply must get a breath of air.
Yes, all right. Pass me my cigarette case.
Oh, darling, you're not going to smoke. Not now.
All right.
It's a heavenly night.
I thought you said it was too hot.
Not out here, it isn't.
I'm going to sleep.
Paul?
What is it?
There's someone next door. Talking to Miss Jeans. I can hear them.
So what?
Well, darling, it is 4:45.
You're probably imagining things. Come on, get into bed and try to sleep.
Paul? Come over here. To the balcony.
No, I'm too comfy where I am.
Paul, please.
What is it?
You know that man in Augusta? The American.
Colonel Marquand, yes?
He's next door. He's talking to Miss Jeans.
Don't be silly.
Paul, I'm certain it's Marquand. Absolutely certain. I heard his voice that night at the gate of the Villa Nagara.
Wait a minute. Where's my dressing gown? Here it is.
Listen.
I can't hear a darn thing.
Listen.
What makes you think that's Marquand? I'm not even sure it's Miss Jeans.
Go out onto the balcony.
All right.
Don't argue the point, Sidney. How could I possibly tell you beforehand?
You told Armstrong?
I did not tell Armstrong.
Now, do you believe me?
Yes. Yes, it's Marquand, all right.
If you want my frank opinion, this Sullivan business is beginning to get on my nerves. I don't like it.
You're not expected to like it. Now listen to me, Sidney. Don't start jumping the rails. Play the whole thing the way I told you, and we'll be sitting pretty.
I don't know. I don't like it, Arthur. Things are far trickier than I expected. Look at this Quinn business, for instance.
For Pete's sake, forget Quinn. I've told you. There's nothing to worry about. Once we've got the glasses, the rest should be child's play.
But we haven't got the glasses.
It's a pity Armstrong was disturbed.
If Temple's got the glasses, he carries them about with him, or she does. At any rate, they're not in the room.
How do you know?
I searched it.
Did she, by Jove?
When?
They went out for a walk. They were gone about 3/4 of an hour. I went over the room with a tooth comb. Believe me, the glasses aren't in the room.
We've got to get those glasses, Sidney. I don't give two hoots how we get them, but we've got to get them.
Arthur.
Yes?
Supposing I told Temple that Sullivan was a friend of mine, that he'd gone out of town for 2 or 3 days, and that he'd asked me to pick up the glasses.
He wouldn't fall for that. In any case, he'd want to know why you hadn't mentioned it before.
Oh, then why not find someone to impersonate Sullivan?
For heaven's sakes, don't you think I've thought of that? I tried it with Armstrong.
Armstrong's a blundering fool. It's time you got rid of him.
He may be a fool, but at least I can trust him.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Okay. We'll skip it. I'll ring you tomorrow about 10:30.
Yes, all right.
Now remember what I told you. Keep on friendly terms with them and don't let them out of your sight.
Okay.
Come on, Steve. Let's get back into the room. I'm going to close the window for a minute.
Yes, all right.
Well, we live and learn.
Paul, there's one thing I don't understand. If she's in league with Marquand and that other man Armstrong, then why did she dash in here when I was shouting for help?
The answer to that is simple, my sweet. In fact, I ought to have thought of it before.
Mm-hmm.
Things were getting pretty hot, and she dashed in here to warn Armstrong that you were making yourself heard. Also, don't forget it served a very useful purpose. Miss Jeans made your acquaintance under, so far as she was concerned, very favourable circumstances.
Yes. Paul, what are we going to do?
We're going to keep on nice friendly terms with Miss Jeans, just as if we trusted her implicitly.
And the glasses?
Well, I've told you what I'm going to do with the glasses, darling. I'm putting them in a safe deposit first thing tomorrow morning.
Yes. I wonder how Mr. Quinn fitted into all this.
Well, obviously, he was in the same boat as Constantine.
What do you mean?
Quinn was also after the glasses, but operated, or worked, if you like, independently.
You mean independent of Marquand?
Both Marquand and Constantine, yes.
I'm not so sure of that.
Why?
I don't think Quinn was after the glasses, darling. If you want my opinion, I think he was just a contact man.
A contact man?
Yes.
Well, if he was, he must have been working for someone. Who? It certainly wasn't Marquand.
No. Quinn was probably working for the man who owns the curio shop, Zoltan Bari. I don't think that Quinn knew anything at all about the glasses. He was just told to get in touch with us and deliver that card.
Yes. You might be right.
Miss Jeans knew Quinn, and to my way of thinking, she knows something about the house of Bari. You saw how she reacted when you mentioned the Avenue Schulamar.
Yes.
Paul, do you think anyone else is after the glasses? Miss Fraser, for instance?
I don't know about Miss Fraser. Darwin, I'm a little doubtful about. For one thing, he's just a shade too friendly for my liking. Also, his appearance at Sandbanks when that launch capsized us seemed to me to be rather too much of a coincidence.
Yes. Darling, supposing someone turns up and claims to be Richard Sullivan, someone that seems perfectly genuine. Then what are you going to do?
Well, once I'm absolutely sure that he is the real Richard Sullivan, I'm going to ask him what the heck it's all about. Have you any stamps, please?
Yes, sir. Shall I post the letter for you?
Oh, thank you.
Excuse me, are there any letters for me? Room 132.
Your name, sir?
Schreider?
No, I'm sorry. There is nothing for you, Herr Schreider.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Schreider. I didn't expect to find you in Cairo.
I'm sorry, I'm afraid I don't recognize...
Temple.
Temple? Oh, yes, of course. I remember. You were at my cafe the night before last with Signore Rossetti.
Yes.
Did you find your friend?
My friend?
Yes. You made inquiries, if I remember correctly, about a man called Constantine. For some reason or other, you thought he was at my cafe.
Oh, yes. Yes, I found him, thank you.
I'm so glad. Well, if you'll excuse me?
Yes, of course.
Who was that, Paul?
Didn't you recognize him?
No.
It's Olaf Schreider, the man who owns the El Passaro.
You mean the cafe at Syracuse?
Yes.
Is he staying here?
Yes, apparently he's just arrived. Well, I'm off to the bank. You can either come with me or I'll call back for you.
I want to do some shopping. I'll meet you back here in about 45 minutes.
Yes, all right. Take care of yourself.
I will.
And if you bump into Miss Jeans, don't forget, Steve.
I'll be as nice as pie.
Yes. We don't want her to jump to any conclusions about last night.
No, of course not.
See you later.
Bye. $125 piastres, not one more, nor one less.
Dear lady, I swear to you that if they are worth 175 piastres...
125.
125? You are not serious. You are joking.
125, take it or leave it.
125? But I cannot accept 125 piastres for such an exquisite pair of gloves.
Very well, then, don't accept.
No, wait, please. One moment, don't go away. Now, look at them. Examine them, touch them with your fingers. You see the lace, you see what beautiful soft lace.
125 piastres.
125.
Good for you, Mrs. Temple.
Oh, hello, Miss Jeans.
You like some nice gloves, dear lady? 190 piastres a pair? Very nice, very lovely.
No, thank you.
170 piastres a pair? 150 piastres?
And 125 piastres. No, thank you, brother. You seem to be making a morning of it.
I've just bought one or two odds and ends.
And where are you off to now?
I'm on my way back to the hotel. What are you doing? Just strolling around?
Yeah, I have been. And gosh, my feet are killing me. I'm just going to have some coffee. Why don't you join me?
Well, I promised to meet my husband at 11:30, so I...
Well, what of it? You surely won't panic over half an hour, and what are husbands for, anyway?
Yes, all right.
Swell. I'll take you to Flomber's, and I'll bet you it's the quaintest little place you've ever been in.
I've been in some pretty quaint places. Is it far from here?
No, it's just on the corner. Here, let me carry some of those parcels.
Thank you.
Oh, gosh, these are nice shoes. Can you wear heels like this?
Yes.
Oh, gee.
Why? It's a courtyard.
Do you like it?
It's heavenly. And just look at that fountain.
You might be miles from anywhere. It's extraordinary. You can hardly hear the street noises.
It's most attractive.
I thought you'd like it. It's quite a haunt of mine. Ah, here's Flambert.
Bonjour, mademoiselle. Nice to see you again. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Voici votre place habituelle, mademoiselle.
Thank you, Mr. Flambert.
Coffees and a few pastries.
Okay?
Yes.
That'll do fine.
Merci.
Will you, excuse me a moment?
Yes, of course.
Where's Armstrong?
In my office. I'll take you to him.
Is she here?
Yes. You've got the car?
Yes, of course.
Where is it?
It's where we arranged it would be, facing the corner.
Right. You know what to do, Flambert?
Oui, but I'm a little worried. I do not like the thought of the young lady being taken ill in my cafe.
Don't worry, there'll be no trouble. It'll take about 4 or 5 minutes for the drug to work. Go back to the car and wait.
Yes, all right.
Keep the car ticking over.
Yes.
And drive carefully. Remember, it's a bad road.
I'll be careful.
Give me 2 or 3 minutes and then serve the coffee.
I trust there will be no noise or disturbance. It will be most unfortunate.
Don't worry. Everything will be done quickly and quietly. She won't even know what's happening. I'll be most discreet.
Very well.
I'm going back to the car. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, only don't forget what I've told you. Keep the engine ticking over and drive carefully.
I shan't forget.
I don't know what happened. 1 minute I was feeling perfectly all right, and the next
Have you ever felt like this before?
No, never. It's most extraordinary. It's just as if my legs were...
Do you think it's the heat?
No. I'm so dizzy.
There's a car over here. Maybe he'll drive us back to the hotel.
No, I ought to walk. Perhaps if I walk, I should...
Look, lean on my shoulder.
I don't know what's happening to me.
Can you manage all right?
Yes, it's okay. I've got her. Get the door open.
Where are you going to sit?
I'll sit with her in the back, just in case she comes round.
Yes, all right. Did you have much trouble with her in the cafe?
No, it was easy.
Can you manage?
Yes.
All set?
Yeah, okay.
Is she all right?
Yes, I think she's coming round.
Well, watch it. If she gets suspicious, she might start shouting.
Don't worry, I'll take care of her. You just watch what you're doing.
Oh, what happened? Did I faint?
Feeling better?
Yes, but what happened? Where am I? Where are we going?
Hey, it's okay. We're going back to the hotel. Isn't that where you wanted to go?
But, oh, gosh, my head. It's absolutely splitting.
If I were you, I should sit back and take it easy. Just relax.
But what happened to me? I shouldn't have fainted like that. Oh, gosh, my head. I feel as if
Why the fool?
Look out or you'll hit him.
He came out of that street without the slightest...
Look out or you'll hit him. You fool. You could have missed him if you'd...
How the blazes could I have missed him? He came out of that street without...
Was that our tire that burst?
Yes.
You blundering fool.
What's the big idea? Huh? You're trying to make this barouche of mine look worse than it is.
Why on earth don't you look where you're going?
Why don't you go where you're looking? You're on the wrong side of the road anyway.
Listen to me, if you'd put your blasted brakes on instead of coming out of...
Why? Hello, Mrs. Temple. I say, you look off colour.
I was just taking her back to the hotel. She hasn't been very well.
She certainly doesn't look very well.
I passed out a few moments ago.
I'm not surprised with this fellow driving you around.
Do you think you could give us a lift? I'm afraid we're in rather a spot right now.
Well, yes, of course.
Oh, this is Miss Jeans, Mr. Darwin.
How do you do, Miss Jeans?
Glad to know you, Mr. Darwin.
Now, come along, Mrs. Temple. Give me your hand.
Thank you.
I say, you certainly do look off colour.
I beg your pardon, but are you sure there isn't a message for me?
Quite sure, sir. But I'll make quite certain. One moment, if you please. Has there been a message for Mr. Temple? Room 187? No? Thank you. I'm sorry, sir.
Thank you.
Hello. What's the trouble? You're looking very despondent this morning, Mr. Temple.
Oh, hello, Miss Fraser. It's nice to see you again. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. But you don't appear to be so pleased with life, not just at the moment.
It's that dear little wife of mine. She promised to meet me at 11:30, and here it's nearly 1:45.
Good gracious me. Aren't you used to that sort of thing by now?
And what time was your appointment?
12:30.
It seems to me you women are all alike.
I expect if the truth were known, she's still shopping. There are some fascinating shops in Cairo, you know.
Yes.
She's probably browsing away in some old curio shop or other.
Yes. I hadn't thought of that.
Well, I must be getting along.
Yes, of course.
When you do see Mrs. Temple, don't forget now, give her my kind regards.
Yes, I will, certainly.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, Miss Fraser. Get me a cab, will you, please?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Temple?
Oh. Hello, Schreider.
So, you got my message?
Your message?
Yes, I left a message for you with the concierge.
I'm afraid I didn't get it. Well, what can I do for you, Schreider?
I saw you talking to Miss Fraser just now, the Scots lady, and I was wondering if...
Yes?
I was wondering if, by any chance, she was a friend of yours.
Miss Fraser's an acquaintance. We met on the flying boat.
An acquaintance? But you dined together at my cafe, El Pasaro.
We dined with Mr. Darwin, and Miss Fraser happened to be his guest.
I see.
I wonder if you do see, Mr. Schreider.
What do you mean?
You sound rather doubtful about it all. Why are you interested in Miss Fraser?
Early this morning, Miss Fraser had an interview with a man called Hakim, Commandant Hakim. Shortly afterwards, I was compelled to...
Compelled to what, Schreider?
I was compelled to answer a number of quite unnecessary questions.
What sort of questions?
She wanted information about a man called Quinn, Patrick Norman Quinn.
Was he a friend of yours?
No. I'd never even heard of him, but I'm quite sure that Miss Fraser told the Commandant that he was a friend of mine.
But why should she do that?
I don't know. Any more than I know why she searched my room.
She searched your room?
Yes.
You're sure it was Miss Fraser?
Quite sure.
Mr. Schreider, did Commandant Hakim ask you anything else?
I told you what he asked me. He simply wanted to know whether Quinn was a friend of mine.
You know, of course, that Quinn was murdered last night?
Yes. Hakim told me. Apparently there was a warrant out for his arrest.
For Quinn's arrest?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Well, apparently there was. He was wanted on an embezzlement charge.
Excuse me, sir. Your cab is waiting, sir.
Oh, thank you. I'll probably see you later, Schreider. I shouldn't worry too much about Miss Fraser if I were you.
Where do you wish to go, sir?
I want you to take me to the House of Bari.
The House of Bahri?
Yes, 227 Avenue Shulamar.
Are you looking for anything in particular, sir?
Well, as a matter of fact, I'm looking for my wife.
Your wife?
Yes, we seem to have missed each other. I think she called on you this morning. I was wondering if you could tell me what time she left.
Madame is English?
Yes.
We have had no English visitors this morning, sir.
Oh, that was rather a different complexion on it. This is the House of Bari, of course?
Of course.
Well, I feel sure my wife intended to call here. As a matter of fact, your house was recommended to us by a man called Quinn. Patrick Quinn. He gave us a card. I do believe I've got it here somewhere.
When did Mr. Quinn recommend the House of Bahri?
Last night. We met him in the cocktail bar at the Continental.
Have you got the card?
Well, I did have. Oh, here it is.
Thank you. Your name is Temple?
Yes.
Will you come this way, please? The ceiling is very low in here. Please, mind your head. Through here, Mr. Temple.
Thank you.
So, here ye are at last. Why, man, you've been a devil of a time coming. I'd almost given you up as a bad job.
Well, I'll be... Mr. Quinn.
That was the 5th episode of the Francis Durbridge serial, Paul Temple and the Sullivan Mystery, with Crawford Logan as Paul Temple and Gerda Stevenson as Steve. Others taking part were Richard Greenwood, Eliza Langland, Angus McInnes, Michael Mackenzie, Wendy Seeger, Gareth Thomas, and Nick Underwood. The production was by Patrick Rayner. We present Crawford Logan as Paul Temple and Gerda Stevenson as Steve in Paul Temple and the Sullivan Mystery, a serial by Francis Durbridge. Episode 6, A Message from Sir Graham.
We have had no English visitors this morning, sir.
Oh, that puts a rather different complexion on it. This is the House of Bari, of course?
Of course.
Well, I feel sure my wife intended to call here. As a matter of fact, your house was recommended to us by a man called Quinn, Patrick Quinn. He gave us a card. I do believe I've got it here somewhere.
When did Mr. Quinn recommend the House of Bari?
Last night. We met him in the cocktail bar at the Continental.
Have you got the card?
Well, I did have... Oh, here it is.
Thank you. Your name is Temple?
Yes.
Will you come this way, please? The ceiling is very low in here. Please, mind your head. Now, through here, Mr. Temple.
Thank you.
Ah, so here you are at last. Why, man, you've been a devil of a time coming. I'd almost given you up as a bad job.
Well, I'll be... Mr. Quinn.
Well, sure it's Mr. Quinn. Come in, don't stand in the doorway. Man, you look as if you've seen a ghost.
I feel as if I'd seen a ghost. I thought you were dead.
Now, that's a nice thing to say. And whatever gave you that idea?
A gentleman by the name of Hakim told me that you'd been shot. He seemed quite convinced of it, in fact.
Did he now? Well, that's very gratifying, I must say. Do you hear that, Barry? Get the gentleman a chair. And that's better. Now, Mr. Temple, in a manner of speaking, I feel that I owe you both an apology and an explanation.
Well, supposing we have the explanation first.
You prefer it that way? Very well. You have a pair of glasses, Mr. Temple, a pair of spectacles belonging to a man called Richard Sullivan. I want those spectacles.
Why?
I beg your pardon?
I said why. Why do you want the spectacles?
Why the devil do you think I want them? I want to hand them over to Mr. Sullivan.
Why doesn't Mr. Sullivan come and get them himself? He knows where I am. Or at any rate, he could very easily find out.
That's an interesting point. Now you've hit the nail on the head, as you might say.
I'm delighted to hear it.
You see, Mr. Temple, Mr. Sullivan, as you know... Well, I suppose I'd better begin at the beginning. Sullivan paid a visit to London and unfortunately lost his glasses. They were found by a friend of his, Miss Raymond. She gave them to you and asked you to deliver them to Mr. Sullivan when you arrived in Cairo, correct?
Correct.
Well, have you ever wondered why Mr. Sullivan hasn't got in touch with you? Why he didn't, in fact, meet the plane?
I've thought quite a lot about Mr. Sullivan during the past 2 or 3 days. Quite a lot.
You thought what, for instance, Mr. Temple?
Well, for instance, this man that was shot, the man that our friend Hakim mistook for Mr. Quinn. I don't suppose he could have been Sullivan by any chance?
He could have been, but he wasn't. Now, don't let your imagination run riot, Mr. Temple. The explanation about Sullivan is really quite simple. Sullivan is a friend of mine, a very close friend. Unfortunately, his movements are, well, to say the least, restricted. You see, there's a warrant out for his arrest.
A warrant for his arrest? What for?
I don't think we'll go into that. The point is this. Sullivan needs his glasses. The poor chap can't even read a newspaper without them. He'd then go into an optician's and order a new pair for the simple reason the police are after him. Don't you understand? The man's in hiding.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you believe my story?
You produce Mr. Sullivan. Prove to me without any shadow of doubt that he is Mr. Sullivan, and I'll produce the glasses.
Well, now, that's fair enough.
Mr. Temple, have you got these spectacles with you at the moment?
No, I haven't, Mr. Barry. I don't make a habit of carrying spectacles about with me. Not when they're worth £10,000.
What the devil do you mean, £10,000?
Oh, didn't I tell you? A gentleman by the name of Constantine offered me £10,000 for them.
When?
2 days ago.
Did you?
No, I didn't. You know, Mr. Quinn, you appear to be almost as concerned about Mr. Sullivan's spectacles as Colonel Marquand.
And who might he be?
Don't you know? I was beginning to think he might be a friend of yours.
I've never heard of him.
Or Mr. Armstrong?
Oh, Mr. Armstrong.
But you'd heard of Mr. Constantine, I take it.
Constantine was an acquaintance of mine. He frequently visited the house of Bari. He was a collector of curios.
Well, he won't visit the house of Bari anymore, my friend.
What do you mean?
He collected a knife between the shoulder blades.
Where did this happen?
In Augusta.
When?
2 days ago.
You suspect that this Colonel Marquand had something to do with it?
It's a possibility. Colonel Marquand was, still is, interested in the spectacles. So was Mr. Constantine.
So am I. But that doesn't mean I murdered Constantine.
We seem to be getting away from the point, Mr. Quinn. Mr. Temple has got these spectacles, therefore it is essential that we introduce him as soon as possible to the real Mr. Sullivan.
Can you meet me tonight?
Well?
Now, let's see. There's a man called Durant. He runs 1 or 2 river excursions. You know the sort of thing I mean.
Tom Durant?
That's the fellow.
I've noticed several of his boats. Well?
Durant has a place on the Nile. It's about 200 yards from the Anglo-Egyptian Club. Do you know it?
No, but I could easily find it.
All right. Find it. Ask for Tom Durant and mention my name, Bahri.
Tonight?
Yes.
Tonight at 6:30.
Right.
Oh, and Mr. Temple.
Yes?
I trust you'll treat this interview as confidential. I should hate our friend Hakim to be disillusioned.
What do you mean?
Commandant Hakim and a great many other people in Cairo are labouring under the impression that I've passed away. I should prefer that they continue to think along those lines.
Mr. Quinn, so far as I'm concerned, you're a dead duck. Produce Mr. Sullivan, and I'll produce his spectacles.
You're a man after my own heart.
Has my wife returned yet?
Mrs. Temple. Yes, I think you'll find she's in her room, sir.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Temple.
Oh, hello, Miss Fraser.
Mrs. Temple came in shortly after you left. You only just missed her.
Oh, what a pity.
Mr. Darwin was with her, and a young lady called Miss Jeans.
Miss Jeans?
Yes. I hope you don't mind me mentioning it, Mr. Temple, but frankly, I didn't think your wife looked too well. Apparently she'd fainted or something.
Fainted?
Yes.
Who told you that?
Mr. Darwin told me.
Well, what happened, do you know?
Well, I believe she went into some cafe or other with this Miss Jeans and, well, just turned queer.
Oh. Well, if you'll excuse me.
Oh, yes, of course. If there's anything I can do, please let me know. Cairo 8792 will always find me.
That's very kind of you, Miss Fraser.
Not at all.
Darwin.
Oh, here you are, old boy. I was just coming down to look for you.
How's my wife?
Oh, she's all right now. She had a nasty turn, but she'll be all right.
Yes, I've just seen Miss Fraser. She told me Steve fainted or something.
Yes. Frankly, I can't quite figure out what happened. All seems a little mysterious. Anyhow, she's all right now, that's the main thing. Oh, by the way, I've invited you both to have dinner with me tonight.
That's very nice of you.
Not at all. Delighted. Pick you up at 8 o'clock?
Well, could you make it a little later, say 5:30?
Yes, of course. And don't worry about Mrs. Temple, old boy. She'll be all right. Goodbye.
Oh, Darwin?
Yes?
What exactly happened? Were you in the cafe when Steve fainted?
No, I bumped into them in my car just as... Well, look here, I'm sure Mrs. Temple will want to tell you all about it herself.
Yes, all right.
Oh, by the way, is this Miss Jeans an old friend of yours? Or?
No, just an acquaintance. As a matter of fact, we met her for the first time last night.
Ah.
Why do you ask?
Nothing. I wondered, that's all. Well, see you tonight.
Yes.
Cheers.
Goodbye, Darwin. Well, we seem to have had quite a morning, darling. What with your experience at Flombert's and me at the house of Bari.
Yes.
Steve, tell me, did Miss Jeans realise that you'd spotted Armstrong as the driver of the car?
I don't know. If she did, she certainly carried it off pretty well. As a matter of fact, I wasn't quite so far gone as she thought I was. I had a hunch the coffee had been tampered with, and I didn't drink it all.
It was certainly a lucky coincidence bumping into Darwin.
Yes, he was awfully sweet. I wonder if he really is mixed up in this business, Paul.
I've got a jolly good mind to ask him.
It might be quite an idea. You don't think he's working for Sir Graham, by any chance?
What on earth do you mean?
Attached to Scotland Yard?
I hardly think so, darling. Steve, I want you to forget what I told you about Miss Jeans. From now on, give her a pretty wide berth. She's dynamite.
I suppose they meant to hold me as a sort of hostage until you handed over the spectacles.
Yes.
Mr. Quinn, are you going to keep that appointment with him?
I might.
Why? Do you think he was telling the truth? Do you think he really knows Richard Sullivan?
I'm pretty sure he doesn't. As a matter of fact, Steve, I'm slowly coming round to the idea that Mr. Constantine might possibly have been right after all, and that there is no Richard Sullivan. After I deposited the spectacles in the bank this morning, I went round to police headquarters and had a chat with Hakim. He checked on the Trans-Eurasian Oil Company for me. They'd never even heard of Richard Sullivan.
Had Hakim heard of Sullivan?
No.
Well, surely that proves that Quinn was lying. Hakim must have heard of Sullivan if there's a warrant out for him.
Exactly.
If you intend to keep your appointment with Mr. Quinn, what are you going to do about the spectacles?
I'll produce the spectacles after Mr. Quinn produces Mr. Sullivan. I'm taking no chances.
It seems to me we're taking a pretty big chance by keeping the appointment.
What do you mean, we? Come in.
Sorry to disturb you, but this cable was pushed under my door a few moments ago. It's marked room 186, but it's got your name on it, Mr. Temple.
Oh, thank you, Miss Jeans.
That's all right. Are you feeling okay now?
Yes, I'm all right, thanks.
You know, we had quite a morning. Your wife passed out, and on top of that, a crazy cab driver drove us bang slap into a friend of yours.
Yes, so my wife's just been telling me.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better anyway.
I'll be all right.
If there's anything I can do, just ask. You know where to find me.
Thanks.
Bye.
Who's the cable from?
I don't know, I haven't opened it yet.
Well?
Speak of the devil. Listen to this, Steve. Arriving in Cairo today, will contact you Hotel Continental. Regards, Forbes.
Sir Graham.
Mr. Durand?
Yes?
My name is Temple.
Well?
Mr. Bari told me to get in touch with you.
Oh, you're the party that wants to go out to the houseboat.
Well, he didn't say anything about a houseboat.
Yeah, that's all right. Jump in. Hello? Who's this?
This is my wife.
Is she coming with you?
If you've no objection.
Well, makes no difference to me. Only Barry didn't say anything about a lady.
You're not going to come between husband and wife, are you, Mr. Durand?
Get in.
I'll get in first, Steve.
Hold my hand.
Steady. That's it. Do you mind moving over to the right a little?
Oh, not at all.
That's better.
How far are you taking us?
Well, don't you know?
No.
I've been told to take you to that houseboat. The one with the blue shutters. Do you see it?
Yes. Whose is it?
I don't know. It's been there about a week. That's all I know.
Did Mr. Bari tell you to wait for me?
No. He simply asked me to take you over to the houseboat. Do you want me to wait?
Yes.
How long are you likely to be?
Oh, I don't know. Not very long. In any case, I'll make it worth your while.
All right. I'll wait.
Have you brought anyone else out here?
Tonight?
Yes.
No.
Not even Mr. Barry?
No. I did bring a man out here 2 or 3 days ago. Little Irish fellow, name of Quinn.
Oh, yes.
I seem to remember reading something about a man named Quinn. Wasn't he murdered?
He was. He was shot, poor devil.
Is Barry a friend of yours?
Barry? It's easy to tell you haven't lived in Cairo for very long. Mr. Zoltan Bari is a millionaire. He chooses his friends almost as carefully as his curios, and some of them are just as priceless.
Why did Mr. Quinn come out here? To the houseboat?
I don't know. I suppose he had an appointment with someone. It never entered my head to ask him.
We're nearly there, Paul.
Yes.
There's a rope ladder on the other side. Look, sit still. I'll row you round there.
Was Quinn a friend of yours?
No.
Did you wait for him?
No. I left him on the boat.
Did you see anyone?
What do you mean?
Did you see anyone on the houseboat?
I never bothered to look. Providing I'm paid for what I do, and it's on the level, I'm not exactly curious.
There's the ladder.
Wait a minute.
Hello there? Hello there?
There doesn't seem to be anyone about.
No. Shall I go first, and I can give you a hand?
Yes, all right.
But watch yourself. I'll try and keep the boat as steady as I can.
I'll be all right.
Steady, Paul.
It's all right, Steve. It's quite easy.
Are you all right?
Yes.
Now, watch that rung at the bottom. Yep, that's it.
Steady. Now, jump. There we go.
I don't see any sign of Mr. Quinn.
No.
Are you all right?
Yes. I don't expect we shall be very long.
I'll hang on.
I don't think there's anyone here.
No. Neither do I.
Did Quinn mention any special time for you to come?
He said 6:30, but it's after that now.
Yes.
There's the cabin over there.
If there's anyone on board, surely they'd have heard us.
I wonder what the idea is.
Was it Quinn's suggestion that you meet him, or Mr. Barry's?
Barry's.
Yes, well, there's no sign of either Barry or Quinn, to say nothing of the elusive Mr. Sullivan.
Let's try the cabin.
Good Lord.
What's happened? What's been going on here?
Just look at the place. It's been absolutely ransacked.
Look at the chairs and the table. Paul, what has been happening?
There's been a fight. A struggle, I should think. Someone's put up a pretty good show.
Paul, what's this?
Let me have a look.
What is it?
Where did you find it?
It was on the back of this chair. What is it?
It's a piece of cord, that's all. Someone must have dropped it. There's another cabin over here. Let's have a look.
Is that all right?
Yes, this doesn't seem to have been disturbed. I wonder if Quinn did come here. He was followed by someone, and then...
Paul, have you noticed these... Oh, they're nearly all maps.
Maps?
Yes. Look, they're all over the place. Maps of Cairo, Alexandria, Haifa, the Suez Canal.
So they are, you're right. There's a compass over here, too. Now, that's interesting.
What?
I'm just looking at this map of Cairo. Someone's been working on it. Do you see those red dots?
Yes.
I wonder what they've been trying to do.
That's the hotel, isn't it?
Where? Oh, yes, that's right.
And isn't that the Avenue Shulamar, the line with the red dot on it?
Yes. I should think that red dot marks the house of Barry.
Then what are the others?
I don't know. I'm taking this map back to the hotel with me.
Aren't you going to wait for Quinn?
I don't think there's any point, dear. It's my bet that Quinn's already been here.
Then why didn't he wait?
Well, quite obviously the gentleman was disturbed.
Paul, I've got a hunch that something's happened to Quinn.
Well, judging by the look of this place, something's certainly happened to someone.
Supposing Quinn told you the truth this morning and Sullivan was here, the real Richard Sullivan, supposing Quinn came here tonight, or this afternoon for that matter, saw Sullivan, told him what had happened between you, and then...
And Sullivan didn't care for it, fell out with Quinn, and had a first-class row.
Yes.
But if Sullivan was here, and really needed the glasses as badly as Quinn said he did, then why should he fall out with Quinn?
Yes, well, you answer that one, darling.
Your hunch might be right, Steve. I must confess I've had an odd sort of feeling about Quinn ever since the first night we met him. I'll probably find the poor little devil with his throat cut or floating down the river.
Oh, darling, don't.
Anyway, there's obviously no point in staying here. Let's get back to the boat. Watch yourself, Steve. That's it. Can you manage all right, Durand?
Yes. You weren't very long?
No. Tell me, what did Barry say to you when he gave you your instructions?
Instructions?
To take me out to the houseboat.
Instructions is hardly the right word. He paid me 1,000 piastres and asked me to be on the lookout for you.
But he did tell you to take me out to the houseboat?
Yes.
I'm rather interested in what you told me about that Irish fellow, Quinn. Was that the first time you'd seen him?
No.
You'd seen him before?
Yes.
Where?
You seem to be a pretty inquisitive sort of fellow. Do you always go around asking these questions?
I make quite a point of it.
I'll bet you do.
Was Quinn a friend of yours?
No, he wasn't. I've already told you that. I'd seen him around, in pubs and places. You know how it is.
Yes.
Oh, what's that?
Paul, there's something in the water.
Be careful. Don't rock the boat.
Paul!
Don't move, Steve. What is it, Durand?
I don't know. I felt one of you all strike something and... Oh, she's right. Look.
What is it?
There's someone in the water.
Steve, keep still. You'll turn us over.
Wait a minute. I'll get this all over the other side. That's it. Now give me a hand.
Don't move, Steve.
You keep a hold of me. Yes, that's it.
Have you got it?
Yes. Yes, now pull. Pull.
Oh, be careful.
Watch it. For goodness sake, it will have us over.
I've got it. I can't quite... Hold on. Now pull. Pull.
Look. The body. It's turned over. Do you see who it is? Paul, do you see who it is?
Good Lord. It's Miss Jeans. It's gone 8:30, darling. Are you nearly ready?
Yes, I shan't be long. I've just got to fasten this clip. There.
There's a message through from Darwin. He wants us to meet him at the Karamet.
The Karamet?
It's an hotel.
Is it far from here?
Yes, it's almost on the fringe of the desert. By the way, Steve, where did you put that map I gave you?
It's in the dressing case by the side of the bed.
Have you locked it?
Yes. All right, dear. I'm ready.
Are you sure you feel up to this, Steve? Because if you don't, I can easily telephone Darwin.
No, I'm all right. It was an awful shock finding Miss Jeans like that, but I'm really all right now. Hello?
Hello? Who's that?
This is Mrs. Temple speaking, room 187.
Hello, Steve.
Oh, Sir Graham! I didn't recognise you. Where are you speaking from? It's Sir Graham.
I'm in Cairo. I landed just over an hour ago. Is that husband of yours around?
Yes, of course. Here he is.
Hello, Sir Graham.
Hello, Temple. How are you?
Oh, I'm all right, I suppose.
Did you get my cable?
Yes. When did you arrive?
About an hour ago.
Where are you speaking from? You're not in the hotel.
No, as a matter of fact, I'm with a friend of yours.
Oh? Who's that?
Commandant Hakim.
Hakim. That bumptious little owl.
I thought you'd say that. His bark's much worse than his bite.
Yes, well, frankly, I don't care for either.
I'd like to see you, Temple. When can we get together?
Well, that's up to you. Steve and I have a dinner engagement, but we should be back by 11 at the latest.
All right. If it's not too late, let's say your hotel at 11:30.
Fine. Look forward to seeing you. Oh, the room's 187. Come straight up.
Yes, all right.
Oh, Sir Graham?
Yeah?
What are you doing here? What has brought you out to Cairo, anyway?
A pair of spectacles.
Good evening, Zilla.
Good evening, Hashraida. It's nice to see you again.
Thank you. I'm expecting a guest. Mr. Whiteman?
Mr. Whiteman has already arrived, sir. He is on the terrace having a cocktail.
Oh.
Shall I send for him, sir?
No, it's all right, Zilla. I'll join him later.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, I gave my order to Angelo. I hope everything will be all right.
Everything is exactly as you ordered it, sir.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Herr Schrader.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, madam.
I think you have a table reserved for a Mr. Darwin.
Mr. Darwin? One moment, if you please. This is quite correct. Mr. Darwin, but he has not yet arrived, sir. If you would like to go to the table, or perhaps a cocktail on the terrace.
It looks awfully nice on the terrace, darling.
Oh, it is a very fine terrace, madam. Perhaps the finest in the east. When it is clear, like this evening, you can see for miles right across the desert.
It sounds heavenly. Come along, darling.
Thank you, madam.
He was certainly right, Paul. It's a magnificent view.
Yes.
Just look at those lights and the desert. Darling, it's terribly romantic.
Now, don't start going all Ethel M. Dell.
I shall read The Way of an Eagle all over again. No, but seriously, you know, Miss Fraser was right about this place. About Cairo, I mean. She said that in spite of all... What are you staring at?
The man with the moustache. The old boy with the walking stick. I've seen him before, darling. By Timothy. Steve, it's Marquand. Oh. Stay here, Steve.
But, darling...
No, I shan't be a minute. Stay here, darling. Good evening, Colonel Marquand.
I beg your pardon?
I said, good evening, Colonel Marquand.
You have the advantage of me, sir. My name is Whiteman.
Since when?
What do you mean, sir?
You called yourself Marquand in Augusta.
I tell you my name is Whiteman, sir. Oliver J. Whiteman of Charleston, South Carolina.
I beg your pardon. Obviously, I've made a mistake. It's a pity you're not Colonel Marquand, because I've got something which I think belongs to him.
What?
But, of course, if your name is Whiteman, sir, then...
What have you got that belongs to Colonel Marquand?
This.
What is it?
What does it look like?
Well, it looks like a piece of cord.
That was the 6th episode of the Francis Darbridge serial, Paul Temple and the Sullivan Mystery, with Crawford Logan as Paul Temple and Gerda Stevenson as Steve. Others taking part were Richard Greenwood, John Paul Hurley, Eliza Langland, Angus MacInnes, Wendy Seeger, Gareth Thomas, and Nick Underwood. The production was by Patrick Rayner. We present Crawford Logan as Paul Temple and Gerda Stevenson as Steve in Paul Temple and the Sullivan Mystery, a serial by Francis Darbridge. Episode 7, Mr. Darwin Entertains.
I tell you my name is Whiteman, sir. Oliver J. Whiteman of Charleston, South Carolina.
I beg your pardon. Obviously, I've made a mistake. It's a pity you're not Colonel Marquand, because I've got something which I think belongs to him.
What?
But, of course, if your name is Whiteman, sir...
What have you got that belongs to Colonel Marquand?
This.
What is it?
What does it look like?
Well, it looks like a piece of cord.
Now, for your information, it is a cord. Probably part of the Venetian blind. It was used for a very horrible purpose.
What do you mean?
A girl was strangled with it.
What girl?
A certain Miss Jeans. She was strangled and her body was thrown into the Nile.
Yes, well, all this is mighty interesting, sir, but confusing, you see. My name is Whiteman, sir, Oliver J. Whiteman, and believe me, I've never even heard of your friend Colonel...
Marquand.
Colonel Marquand.
I'm sorry to have disturbed you, Mr. Whiteman.
Not at all, sir.
What did he say?
He said his name's Whiteman, and he's got an accent as phony as his moustache.
I saw you take something out of your pocket just now and show it to him. What was it, darling?
It was this.
Why, that's the piece of cord I found on the houseboat.
Yes. Steve, did you take a good look at Miss Jeans when she was in the water?
Yes.
She'd been strangled. Did you realize that?
Yes. I saw the red mark across her throat. I thought something like that had happened. Paul, was she murdered on the houseboat and then thrown into the river?
Yes.
What was she doing on the houseboat in the first place?
Well, someone must have sent for her. Unless, of course...
Unless what, darling?
Well, Miss Jeans was working with Marquand. We know that because of the conversation we overheard in the bedroom. Now, if Marquand deliberately...
Who's this?
Good evening, Herr Schreider.
Mr. Temple, this is a surprise.
I don't think you know my wife.
No, I have not had that pleasure. How do you do?
Mr. Schreider owns the El Pasaro, dear, in Augusta. Do you remember?
Oh, yes, a delightful restaurant.
Oh, very kind, madame. I'm so glad you liked it.
Will you join us in a cocktail?
Well, that's very kind of you, but I am supposed to be dining with a business friend, and, well, I'm already a little on the late side. So, if you will excuse me.
Yes, of course.
Delighted to have made your acquaintance, Mrs. Temple. I hope we shall meet again.
I hope so, too.
Oh, Mr. Schreider?
Yes?
This friend of yours wouldn't by any chance be Colonel Marquand?
Colonel Marquand? But of course not. There is a warrant out for his arrest. Didn't you know that?
I did hear a rumor.
Mr. Temple, I wonder if you will forgive me if I ask a rather personal question.
That depends what it is.
What are you doing here in Cairo?
Well, I came originally to get data for a new book I'm writing, but
you've had other fish to cook.
That's one way of putting it.
After you left my cafe that night, I talked to Signore Rossetti. You remember Signore Rossetti?
Yes.
He told me that you had been asked to deliver a pair of spectacles to a man in Cairo by the name of Richard Sullivan. Is that correct?
What else did he say?
He told me that you had been offered £10,000 for the spectacles. That seems an awful lot of money for just a perfectly ordinary pair of spectacles. Don't you agree?
An awful lot of money, Mr. Schreider.
But, of course, it was just a joke.
I don't think so.
But who would make such an offer? Seriously, I mean.
I'm Mr. Constantine.
Mr. Constantine? But he was the man you were looking for. The man you expected to find at my cafe?
Yes.
Why did he want those glasses? Do you know?
Well, presumably for the same reason that Colonel Marquand wants them.
Did Colonel Marquand offer you £10,000 for them?
Not exactly.
Well, it's all very odd, but most intriguing. Don't you agree, Mrs. Temple?
Most intriguing. How long have you been interested in them, Mr. Schreider?
Oh, I'm just curious, that is all. Ever since Signore Rossetti told me about the spectacles, I have been rather intrigued.
Then I take it you're not going to fall into line and make me an offer for them.
My offer is 12 and 6. Take it or leave it. Now, if you'll excuse me, good night, Mrs. Temple.
Good night, Mr. Schreider.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Goodbye, Schreider.
Well, what do you make of that, darling?
What do you make of it?
Well, obviously, Schreider doesn't know why Constantine offered you such a ridiculous sum for the glasses, and he was trying to find out if you knew.
That's one way of looking at it.
What's the other way?
Schreider knows what's behind the glasses, all right. And he knows why Constantine offered me £10,000 for them.
Then why should he so obviously go out of his way to pump you about them?
Because he's not sure in his own mind just exactly how much I know about this business. And he'd like to find out.
How much do you know, darling?
You'd be surprised. Here's Darwin.
Oh, I do apologize. I'm terribly sorry, Temple. It's really quite unforgivable of me to keep you both waiting like this. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Temple.
That's all right. You sit here.
Oh, thanks. Well, how are you, Mrs. Temple? Are you feeling any better? You certainly look much better than you did this morning.
I'm much better, thanks. I certainly felt awful this morning.
Oh, good. You know, that was a peculiar business. I don't understand even now what really happened.
Well, I think I fainted.
Yes, but what made you faint?
I really don't know. I suppose it must have been the heat.
Well, it didn't look like the heat to me.
What did it look like?
It looked to me as if you'd been drugged or something.
Drugged?
Yes.
Why should anyone want to drug my wife?
Well, supposing you answer that question, Temple.
What do you mean?
Do you remember when we first met, the three of us? It was the night when we discovered the body of Joyce Raymond.
Yes, I remember.
And you remember our second meeting at Sandbanks, when your boat had somewhat mysteriously overturned and I pulled you out of the water?
Well?
Well, by nature, I'm not a particularly inquisitive sort of person, Temple, but quite frankly, what the devil is it all about?
Let's have a cocktail, and then I'll tell you what it's all about.
Right. Well, shall we go inside or stay out here on the terrace? They've got rather a cute little bar here, Mrs. Temple, if you haven't seen it.
Is this the place I've read about? The bar's in the middle of a sort of illuminated aquarium.
That's it. Even the fish are lit up.
It sounds fascinating.
Come along, Mrs. Temple. But this is an incredible story. I can hardly believe it.
Whether you believe it or not, Darwin, it's true.
But, this girl, Sydney Jeans, was she after the glasses?
Yes.
But it really is incredible. Why should she go to such lengths to get hold of a perfect... You know, quite honestly, I still can't believe it. Oh, please, don't misunderstand me. I don't doubt your word for one moment, but it really is quite a story.
I couldn't agree with you more, Mr. Darwin.
Is it your opinion, then, that these people are all working together, or...?
Miss Jeans was working with Marquand, so is the other man I mentioned, Armstrong. But Quinn, the Irish fella...
The man that's supposed to be dead?
Yes, he's obviously hand in glove with Barry.
And what about the other man? The man you met in the flying boat, Constantine?
Well, he was obviously working alone. Or with someone else we haven't yet met.
In other words, it's your opinion that there are 3 or 4 separate groups of people all trying to get hold of the spectacles?
Yes.
Well, it really is quite incredible. What are they like, anyway, these spectacles?
They're just a pair of spectacles.
Have you got them on you?
No.
Why, would you like to buy them, Mr. Darwin?
Buy them? After what your husband's told me, I'd give the best part of £500 to get rid of the things. No, but seriously, I would rather like to see them.
All right. Pop into the hotel one morning and... Yes, waiter, what is it?
I beg your pardon, sir. Mr. Temple?
Yes?
I was asked to deliver this note to you, sir.
Oh, thank you. Wait a moment. Who gave you this?
A gentleman on the terrace, sir.
Which gentleman?
He gave no name, sir.
Well, what did he look like?
Well, he was an oddly dressed little man, sir. His hair was, what do you call it, a reddish color, auburn. He spoke English with a strange accent.
A foreign accent?
Not exactly foreign, sir.
It's Quinn, darling.
Yes. All right, waiter, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
What does the note say?
It doesn't say anything. At least nothing that makes sense. Here we are. Read it for yourselves.
XKD88.
XKD88? What does that mean?
Well, it doesn't mean anything to me.
Well, it must mean something. Otherwise... What do you think, Paul?
Have you got your car here?
Oh, yes, of course. I came in it.
What's the number?
DLK94. Look here, do you think this refers to a car, then? Do you think it's a registration number?
Well, if it isn't, what else is it?
I don't know, but I fail to see why Quinn... I say, just a minute, I'm beginning to catch on. This looks to me as if Quinn wants to see you, and he sent you the number of his car in the hope
Where's the car park here?
Yes, of course. It's over on the other side of the hotel.
Come on, Darwin. Show me where it is.
Well, this is certainly the car park, but I don't see any sign of XKD88.
No, neither do I.
What's that red car? The coupe?
The one with the GB plates?
Yes.
No, I don't think...
No, it's KY something or other.
Well, it doesn't seem to be here.
Nope, I'm afraid it doesn't.
I noticed 1 or 2 cars parked over on the other side. Did you?
Where?
Near the terrace.
No.
Let's have a stroll round there.
You know, maybe you were wrong about this, Temple. Perhaps it isn't a car number after all. In which case, we're on the wrong track.
Did you hear that?
Yes.
What was it?
Well, it might have been a car backfiring,
Well,
but...
it didn't sound like a car to me.
No, it didn't to me either.
Well, whatever it was over on the other side where Mrs. Temple said the cars were parked.
Yes. Come on, let's go round there. What's happened here?
Some crazy guy's blown his brains out. Didn't you hear the shot?
Yes.
What is it, Temple?
What's happened, darling?
I don't know, Steve. Will you excuse me, please?
Temple?
Yes, what is it?
Look at the car. Look at the number.
This is the one, Paul. Look. XKD88.
Excuse me. Excuse me, please. Would you mind, please? Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you.
Who is it? Is it Quinn?
Yes. He's apparently shot himself. He's still got the revolver in his hand.
Suicide?
But why should Quinn commit suicide?
Let's go back into the hotel.
You know, Temple, the thing I can't understand is why Quinn sent you this note. If he wanted you to meet him, why did he commit suicide?
If it was suicide...
Well, from what I can gather, the police seem pretty convinced.
Did you tell the inspector, or commandant, or whatever he calls himself, about the note?
Yes.
What did he say?
He doesn't seem to attach a great deal of importance to it. He seems pretty set on the suicide theory.
Here's the waiter. It's the one that brought you the note, Paul.
Yes.
May I take your order, sir?
Yes, by all means. I think to start with, we'll have some of these flowers off the table.
It is rather like the botanical garden.
Oh, not the pink ones. They're lovely.
Leave the pink ones, Gustav.
Very good, sir.
Now, what would you like, Mrs. Temple? I can recommend... No, those are the pink flowers. Leave those and take the others.
I'm so sorry, sir.
Poor Blighter seems to be in quite a dither.
Yes. I think the police had a word with him about the note.
Ah, that accounts for it. Now, Mrs. Temple, as I was saying, I can recommend...
You can recommend what you like, Mr. Darwin. I know what I'm having. I'm having a large steak and chips.
This isn't the sort of place that specialises in steak and chips, Mrs. Temple, but I can recommend the Gebner Bader Belzatoon L...
No.
No?
Ever since we left England, I've been looking forward to a square meal. So where is the sort of place that specialises in steak and chips?
Jump in, Mrs. Temple.
Are you sure this isn't taking you out of your way?
Of course it isn't. I can drop you at the hotel as easy as pie. What's the matter, old boy?
I seem to have lost my confounded cigarette case. I'm sure I had it.
Oh, you had it at the table, darling.
Yes, I know I did.
Is it in your inside pocket?
No. No, I'm afraid it isn't. I must have put it down somewhere.
Well, I hope you haven't lost it.
I'll pop back to the table. Will you excuse me for a moment?
Yes, of course.
I shan't be long, Steve. Waiter.
Sir.
Would you mind telling that waiter over there that I'd rather like to have a word with him?
Which waiter, sir?
The dark one with the black hair, the one they called Gustav. I shall be on the terrace.
Very good, sir.
You wanted to see me, sir?
Ah, yes. I gather the commandant had a chat to you about that note.
Yes. He wanted to know who gave it to me.
What did you tell him?
I told him the truth. It was given to me by the gentleman who committed suicide.
Mr. Quinn?
Yes, Mr. Quinn.
Did you identify Mr. Quinn?
What do you mean, sir?
Well, you've seen Quinn, I take it, since he was shot?
Yes.
Did you identify him as the man who handed you the note?
But of course. He was the man who gave me the note.
Had you ever spoken to him before?
I know, sir. I'd never even seen him before.
Had anyone else spoken to you about him?
No, sir.
What is your name?
Gustav Valkyrie, sir.
Well, Valkyrie, I wonder if you would do something for me. Just come over here for a moment. Now, you see that lady over there, at the table near the window?
Yes, sir.
Tell me, what sort of a dress is she wearing?
What sort of a dress is she wearing?
Yes. What colour is it?
I'm sorry, sir, I can't tell you the colour.
Oh? Why not?
Because I'm what you call colour-blind, sir.
Colour-blind?
Yes, sir.
Yes. I rather gathered that when you made the mistake with the flowers. Well, if you're colour-blind, Valkyrie, would you mind explaining to me how you were able to describe Mr. Quinn as an oddly dressed little man with reddish auburn hair?
But he was an oddly dressed little man with auburn hair.
That's not quite the point. How did you know?
I could see him.
You could see the colour of his hair?
Look here, what are you getting at?
I'll tell you what I'm getting at. I'm getting at the fact that, in my opinion, Quinn didn't give you that note. Someone else gave it to you, and told you to bring it to me.
That's a lie. I tell you that Quinn gave it to me. He gave me the note and told me to deliver it to you in the cocktail bar.
Supposing I told you that the police are under the impression that Quinn was murdered.
But Quinn committed suicide. He had the revolver in his hand.
He had a revolver in his hand.
What do you mean?
I've got a theory about this, Valkyrie. About what happened tonight, I mean. Before I can prove whether my theory's right or wrong, I've got to know the truth. Who gave you that note?
I've told you.
Who gave you that note?
If you think you're going to bully me into...
Who gave you that note?
I've told you, Quinn gave it to me. Oh, my arm! Don't, please, don't!
Are you going to tell me what happened?
Don't, please don't!
Are you going to tell me what happened, Valkyrie?
I've told you the truth, I swear!
Are you going to tell me what happened?
All right. I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell you the truth. I'll tell you exactly what happened.
Go on. Go on, Valkyrie.
Just before you and Mrs. Temple arrived here tonight, a man told me to...
Sorry to have been such a long time.
Oh, that's all right, old boy. Did you find your cigarette case?
Yes, the waiter had it. I must have left it on the terrace.
Well, things certainly seem to happen to you two.
Yes.
Your shirt's awfully crumpled, darling. Your shirt.
Oh, yes. I've been running.
Well, jump in. Are you quite comfy, Mrs. Temple?
Yes, I'm fine, thanks.
Temple, I've been thinking about what you've told me, I mean.
Yes?
Do you think Miss Fraser's mixed up in this business? Do you think she's after the spectacle?
Miss Fraser? Why mention poor Miss Fraser?
Oh, I don't know. Perhaps it's my imagination, but she seems rather an odd sort of person. Also, she... well, she keeps popping up every now and again, doesn't she?
What do you mean, Mr. Darwin?
Well, she stayed at the hotel in Bournemouth, one where Joyce Raymond was murdered. She was on the flying boat. Naturally, she stayed the night in Augusta, and... well,
You what?
I've seen her several times in Cairo.
I thought you were quite friendly with her. You invited her to the El Pasaro.
Yes, I was rather hoping she'd give me an introduction to her brother.
But I thought you knew her brother.
No, I've never met him. I'm afraid I was pulling a fast one.
Yes, well, I don't think we need worry about Miss Fraser.
No?
No.
Well, how do you account for the lozenge, the peppermint?
Which particular peppermint?
The one we found by the bedroom door.
Well, quite obviously Miss Fraser must have dropped it.
Well, there you are.
What do you mean, there you are?
Mr. Darwin means that Miss Fraser must have been in the bedroom, otherwise...
But I know Miss Fraser was in the bedroom.
How do you know?
She told me. Not only that, but I inquired at the reception desk. You see, Miss Fraser was very late arriving at the hotel. Actually, she checked in just as Armstrong was about to leave. They offered her the same room. She took the room and took a dislike to it.
Then that accounts for... Do be careful, Mr. Darwin.
Is anything the matter?
I don't know. The steering seemed a bit odd.
Have you been having trouble with it?
No.
Well, take it steady. It's rather tricky just here.
Dashed if I can understand it.
Is it all right now?
Yes, I think so.
Do be careful.
Don't worry, Mrs. Temple. I won't take any risks. Oh, it started again. Oh, what the devil is it? Temple? What on earth's the matter with it?
Oh. Brake. Put your brakes on. Brake!
Well, that's extraordinary. I couldn't control the blessing.
Are you all right, Steve?
Yes, I'm all right, darling.
I'm sorry about this, Mrs. Temple.
Let me feel the steering wheel.
Something seemed to snap. I felt it when I put the brake on. Do you think it's serious?
Let's get out and have a look. Switch your engine off.
Can you see anything?
No wonder you couldn't steer very well, Darwin.
Why? What's happened?
The drag link's been forced out of its socket. It was only held together by this piece of wire.
What do you mean?
Sooner or later, this was bound to give way and the steering go to pieces.
But that's ridiculous. I only had the car overhauled yesterday. Are you trying to tell me the car's been tampered with?
Apparently things happen to you too, Darwin.
Here we are, Hotel Continental.
Well, thanks for the buggy ride.
Hotel Continental.
I'm terribly sorry about this, Mrs. Temple. Do you know, I've had that car for 5 years, and that's the first time it's let me down.
That's all right, old boy.
Hotel Continental.
Oh, gosh, my back.
Are you coming in to have a drink, Darwin?
No, but I'm coming in to order a car. I've had quite enough of this barouche.
Hotel Continental.
What's he keep saying?
Well, he's saying Hotel Continental, but what he really means is, how about it? Well, here we are, Ben-Hur. Do you think you could get me a private car?
Wherefore, sir?
The Cosmopolitan.
Yes, I think so, sir, if you will be kind enough to wait a few moments.
Thank you.
Mr. Temple.
Yes?
The gentleman you are expecting has arrived, sir. He is in your room.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I'll say good night. I'm sorry it turned out to be such a grim evening, Mrs. Temple.
Oh, that's all right. Good night, Mr. Darwin.
Good night, Darwin.
Good night, Temple. Oh, now don't forget, you promised to let me see those glasses.
Well, I'm afraid I can't show you them tonight, but if you'd care to drop in the hotel tomorrow sometime.
That's a date.
Why, hello, Miss Fraser.
Why, good evening, Mr. Temple, Mrs. Temple, and Mr. Darwin. My, quite a party.
We've just been dining with Mr. Darwin at the Karamat.
The Karamat? Now, isn't that a delightful place? Is it the first time you've been there, Mrs. Temple?
Yes, it's really lovely.
One of the nicest places I've ever been to. Certainly one of the nicest in Egypt.
Your car has arrived, Miss Fraser.
Oh, thank you. Oh, dear. I'm always dropping my handbag. I don't know why it is, but... Oh, just look at everything all over the place.
It's all right, Miss Fraser. Now, here's your glasses. Oh, and your handkerchief.
Thank you.
And your diary.
Thank you.
And your purse, Miss Fraser.
Oh, thank you. Oh, dear, I certainly am a butterfingers.
I'm rather afraid you've lost one or two peppermints.
I shall be losing my head one of these fine days.
And is this yours, Miss Fraser?
Oh, the revolver. Yes, that's mine, Mrs. Temple. Thank you. It's small, but it's a real one, you know.
Yes, I can quite believe it.
My brother gave it to me a long time ago. It's a sort of curio. It often makes people laugh, you know, to think of me carrying a thing like that around. Yes.
Why do you carry it around, Miss Fraser?
Why? Let me show you, Mr. Darwin. You hold it in your hand like this. You put your finger on the trigger.
Is it loaded?
Yes, it's loaded.
Well, would you mind pointing it the other way, just in case?
No, but it's quite all right. You see, you just press the trigger and it springs open and it's loaded with peppermints.
Yes. Well...
Now, did you say my car was ready?
Yes, madam.
Can I drop you anywhere, Mr. Darwin?
Well, I want to get to the Cosmopolitan, but...
Oh, I'll drop you at the door with pleasure.
Well, that's very kind of you.
Not at all. Well, we'll say good night, Mr. Temple.
See you tomorrow.
Look here, why don't you dine with us tomorrow night, Miss Fraser? You too, Darwin.
It's very kind of you, Mr. Temple. I should be delighted.
Darwin?
Yes. Yes, splendid, old boy.
I can show you the glasses then.
Right.
8 o'clock.
Splendid.
Well, till tomorrow night then. Au revoir, Mrs. Temple.
Goodbye, Miss Fraser.
See you tomorrow then.
Yes.
Cheers.
Is Sir Graham upstairs?
Yes, darling, he's in our room. He's waiting for us. When I asked you over the telephone, Sir Graham, what you were doing here in Cairo, you said I'm here because of the spectacles. What did you mean by that?
Have you still got the spectacles? The ones that Miss Raymond gave you?
Of course I've got them.
Well, where are they?
Well, just at the moment, they're in a safe deposit at the Anglo-Egyptian Bank.
You obviously don't believe in taking risks, Temple.
I believe in taking risks, Sir Graham. You know that. But not unnecessary ones.
Well, it's darned nice to see you again, both of you. And considering all that's happened, you're both looking remarkably fit.
Before we left for Cairo, Sir Graham, I read a report in one of the newspapers that you'd retired. Is that true?
No, I've been transferred. There's been a sort of general upheaval at the Yard. I'm now in control of what's known as the Central Criminal Investigation Bureau. It means more responsibility, but thank the Lord, I've got a completely free hand.
Well, that's something.
I should say so.
You still haven't told us what you're doing in Cairo, Sir Graham.
Just shortly after you left England, Temple, I received information from the governorate in Egypt.
What is that?
It's the equivalent of our Scotland Yard, informing me that certain new facts had come to light concerning the Monton robbery. Now, the Monton robbery, you may recall, actually... What's that?
What?
Didn't you hear it?
No.
I could have sworn I had...
Darling.
What is it?
Paul, listen.
What is it, Temple?
There's someone at the window. Someone on the balcony.
I'll draw the curtain.
No, wait. Put the light out, Steve. Now, wait a minute. Stay back there, Steve.
Paul!
It's Armstrong!
Open the window! Open the window, be quick!
What is it? What do you want?
Temple, listen. I want to tell you about Marquand. I want to tell you why he delivered...
Look out, Temple! There's someone in a car firing from the street!
Be careful, Paul!
Temple, Marquand's double-crossed me. He's thrown in his lot with Strider and decided...
Paul, look out!
It's Marquand! He's trying to stop me!
Get down, Temple! Get down!
Get down, Paul!
That was the 7th episode of the Francis Durbridge serial, Paul Temple and the Sullivan Mystery, with Crawford Logan as Paul Temple and Gerda Stevenson as Steve. Others taking part were Richard Greenwood, Eliza Langland, Angus McInnes, Michael Mackenzie, Gareth Thomas, and Nick Underwood. The production was by Patrick Rayner. We present Crawford Logan as Paul Temple and Gerda Stevenson as Steve in Paul Temple and the Sullivan Mystery, a serial by Francis Durbridge. The 8th and final episode. Still having a wonderful time.
Temple, listen. I want to tell you about Marquand. I want to tell you why he delivered...
Look out, Temple! There's someone in a car firing from the street!
Be careful, Paul!
Temple, Marquand's double-crossed me. He's thrown in his lot with Strider and decided...
Paul, look out!
It's Marquand! He's trying to stop me!
Get down, Temple! Get down!
Get down, Paul! Paul, he's hurt.
Who is this man?
His name's Armstrong. He is, or was, in league with Colonel Marquand.
I've heard of Marquand. He's after the spectacles. Rossetti told me about him.
It's my shoulder. I felt something hit me.
Put the light on, Steve.
Yes, darling.
Armstrong was at Bournemouth the night Joyce Raymond was murdered.
Yes, but I didn't murder Joyce Raymond. I swear I didn't. Temple, I've got to talk to you now.
Reach me that pillow, Sir Graham, off the bed.
That's it.
Is that better?
Yes. Now, Temple, listen. I was sent to England by Marquand. I was told to get the spectacles. I thought you were playing the same game as Marquand. That's why I followed you down to Sandbanks that afternoon.
He provided us with a first-class ducking.
Why did Marquand want the spectacles then? Do you know?
This is Sir Graham Forbes of Scotland Yard.
Oh, I don't know why Marquand wanted the spectacles. He simply told me that if I could get them for him, he'd pay me £7,000. He warned me that several other people were after them.
Who, for instance?
Olaf Schreider, and a henchman of his called Constantine. Constantine was staying at the hotel in Bournemouth. He searched my room. I know it was Constantine, but I don't think he murdered Joyce Raymond.
Who did murder her?
I don't know.
Armstrong, what happened that night in Augusta? The night I met Colonel Marquand?
Marquand got hold of a young fellow called Thompson, a friend of Joyce Raymond's. Thompson didn't know what it was all about, but Marquand persuaded him to telephone you and pretend to be Richard Sullivan. When you suggested over the phone that something had happened to Joyce Raymond, Thompson jumped to the conclusion that
you'd murdered her.
Yes.
Well, who telephoned Marquand, pretending to be Constantine?
Schreider did. Constantine had already been in touch with Schreider, and Schreider knew that you were at the Villa Nagara.
How did he know?
Constantine told you from the hotel. Schreider guessed you'd tell Marquand about what happened on the flying boat.
And he wanted Marquand to believe that I'd already parted with the spectacles before reaching Augusta.
Yes.
Why are you telling us all this?
Because Marquand's double-crossed me. He promised to pay me $4,000 whether I got the glasses or not, and now he's thrown in his lot with Schreider and refuses to pay.
Armstrong.
Yes?
That girl, the American girl, Miss Jeans, was she working for Marquand?
Yes.
But she double-crossed him, didn't she?
What do you mean?
She started to play in with Bari. Marquand found out, followed her out to the houseboat, which was Bari's headquarters, and murdered her. That's true, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, it's true. Why is Bari, and I presume you mean Zoltan Bari, after the spectacles?
Presumably for the same reason as Marquand.
What is the reason?
I don't know. I've told you, I don't know why Marquand wants the spectacles. Oh, my arm.
We shall have to get a doctor, Paul.
In a moment.
There's a warrant out for Marquand. Where would you suggest we look for him?
You might do worse than the Karamet, Sir Graham. He was there tonight calling himself Oliver J. Whiteman.
Marquand was?
Yes.
Failing that, you might try Meyerhoff's.
Meyerhoff's? What's that, a shop?
It's a jeweller's. It's about a quarter of a mile past the house of Bari. And Temple, I warn you, both Schreider and Marquand are pretty dangerous men. Don't underrate them. They're determined to get those spectacles, whatever the cost.
I shan't underrate them, Armstrong.
I'm going out now, darling. I shan't be long.
Right, I'll meet you here about 12 o'clock. Oh, I should take a coat, Steve. It's much colder today.
No, I'll be all right, darling. Oh, you look tired, Paul.
Yes, I feel it. Steve, I had a good talk to Sir Graham last night about this business, and there's something I think you ought to know.
There's something I'd certainly like to know.
What's that?
Why Schreider and Marquand and Zoltan Bari are after the spectacles. Do you know?
Yes, darling, I know.
Did Sir Graham tell you?
Mrs. Temple, please.
You mean you told Sir Graham?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I've known for some time. I discovered the secret of them that day. However, that can wait. Steve, now that Marquand and Schreider have joined forces, they're obviously going to try something pretty desperate. They know I've got the spectacles, and, well, quite honestly, darling, there's a possibility that they may try and pick you up and use you as a sort of hostage.
But Marquand's already tried that, and it failed.
Yes, thanks to Mr. Darwin, but next time he might not be quite so close at hand.
All right, don't worry, Paul. I'll take care.
Yes, well, do take care, Steve. You know, I'm not so sure whether I should let you go out on your own or not.
I'll be all right, darling.
May I come in?
Oh, hello, Sir Graham.
Come in, Sir Graham.
How's Armstrong?
He'll be all right. He should be out of hospital in a matter of a week or so. We checked on that address, the jeweller's he mentioned. There was no sign of Marquand.
I'm not surprised. They must have known that Armstrong would have mentioned that place. What about Schreider?
There's no sign of him either. But, of course, we've got to go steady as far as Schreider's concerned. We've really got no concrete evidence that he's mixed up in this business.
Well, I'll be off, dear. Goodbye, Sir Graham. See you later.
Take care of yourself, Steve.
Now, don't you start. Goodbye.
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 Did you do what I suggested?
Yes, I had a word with Hakim. Don't worry. Steve will be watched from the moment she leaves the hotel.
Good.
There she is.
Where?
She's just come out of the hotel. Do you see her? Look.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I see.
What shall we do?
There's no hurry. Now just take it easy. Relax.
It looks to me as if she's making for the marketplace.
That's okay. Don't worry. We shan't lose her.
What shall I do? Drive the car further down the road?
No, just relax. Stay where you are.
But if she gets round the corner and into the marketplace, it will be almost impossible to find her again.
Don't worry. Now just keep calm.
What are you looking at?
I'm looking at that guy in the corner. He's watching her.
You're imagining things.
Not me, Mr. Schreider. I haven't got that type of imagination. He's watching her, all right. Now, what's the idea?
He's following her.
Yeah. It's one of Hakim's men.
The police?
Yeah. They're not taking any chances.
What are we going to do? We can't pick her up while he's watching.
There's only one thing we can do. Give me back that revolver I gave you. The one with the silencer.
But what?
Give it to me.
What are you going to do?
We'll have to get rid of that man first. It's our only chance.
But you can't
Now
possibly...
listen, Schreider. Drop me about 30 or 40 yards behind him, and then drive slowly. I beg your pardon, sir.
Yes?
Could you direct me to the Alexandria Hotel?
The Alexandria Hotel? You're walking in the wrong direction, my friend. You want to turn round?
Get in the car.
What do you mean? What do you...
You heard what I said. Get in the car.
Look here. What are you trying to do? You can't
Get in that car.
What is the meaning of this? Why are you telling
Do
me...
as I tell you. Get in the car.
I've seen Mrs. Temple.
Oh, I understand now.
Rev your engine up, Schreider. Rev it up.
What are you going to do with that? No, don't. Don't shoot. Don't.
Oh. Okay.
Is he dead?
Don't worry about him. Where did you see Mrs. Temple?
She's in a dress shop over on the other side of the square.
Are you sure?
Yes. I saw her cross over.
Okay. Drive over there. Drive into the curb. Keep your mouth shut and your eyes open.
Hello.
Mr. Temple?
Yes?
Will you hold the line, please? There's a call for you.
Thank you.
Hello. Mr. Temple?
Yes, speaking. Who is that?
Don't you recognize me?
No, I'm afraid I don't.
It's Marquand.
Marquand?
Temple, listen. I've got a friend of yours here. She wants to say a few words to you.
Is that you, Paul?
Steve!
Marquand picked me up, darling. I was in a dress shop. I'm speaking from a house on...
Steve!
Did you get that?
Yes, I got it. Now listen, Marquand. I'm warning you. If anything happens to my wife, I'll...
Relax, brother. I don't like this corny situation any more than you do. Now listen. I want those glasses. I don't want any alibis. I don't want any ifs or buts or ands. I just want those glasses. Do you get me?
I get you, Marquand.
Good. Now listen to what I'm saying. I'm sending a car around for you. He'll pick you up at the corner near the newspaper stand. If anyone's tailing you, or there's any funny business, then it'll be just too bad for Mrs. Temple. Catch on?
Marquand.
Yeah?
I don't think you quite understand the situation.
What do you mean?
You harm my wife, you touch so much as one hair of her head, and...
And what?
And do you know what I'll do? I shall drop those glasses on the floor and smash them to pieces, Colonel Marquand. Understand?
I'm sending the car around straight away. Don't keep it waiting. And don't forget what I've told you.
I shan't forget.
Paul.
Steve. Steve, darling, are you all right?
Stay where you are. Don't move. Were you followed?
No. No, I don't think so.
What do you mean you don't think so?
No, it's all right. I need to check on it.
Okay. Go back to the car, Schreider. Turn it around and wait. I shan't be long.
All right.
Now, my friend, where are the spectacles?
Before I hand them over, Colonel Marquand, I should like you...
Before you hand them over, Mr. Temple, I should like you to get one thing quite clear. You see this revolver?
One could hardly fail to see it.
If I have any nonsense from you, I shan't hesitate to use it. Now, give me the spectacles.
Have I your assurance that once I hand them over...
Stay where you are! Keep on the other side of the stove. Now, I warn you, Temple, if there's any funny business...
I merely wanted your assurance that once I've...
Once you've handed over the spectacles, you can go back to the hotel.
Well, in that case, you leave me with very little...
Paul?
What is it? What the...
It's Sir Graham and the police. Look, they must have followed you, darling.
They picked up Schreider.
The fool. I warned him to be on the lookout.
Paul!
Get to the window, Steve. Let them see you. Drop that gun. Drop it.
Mind the stove, Paul! Darling, mind the stove or you'll have the place on fire.
The revolver.
Do as I... Steve! Break the window and...
Sir Graham! Sir Graham! Paul! Pull the stove!
Look out or you have the place on fire!
Give me that revolver, Marquand, or I'll...
Paul, the curtains have caught fire! I can't... Stop it!
The revolver!
Paul, it's spreading out. I can't stop it!
Temple, the room's on fire!
Me! The revolver! Or I...
Oh!
Temple... Steve, we've got to get out of here.
It's going to be difficult to reach the door.
Now, take this handkerchief. Now, give me your arm. We've got to make a dash for it. Are you ready?
Yes. Yes, I'm ready.
Right. Let's go.
Temple, are you both all right?
Yes. Yes, we're all right, Sir Graham.
Oh, we're having a wonderful time.
Come along, Steve.
Have another drink, Sir Graham.
No, I don't think I will, Temple. Thanks all the same. Well, are you feeling any better, Steve?
I'm feeling fine. But you know, Sir Graham, what I don't understand about this business would fill a library. Now, take that night in Bournemouth, for instance. What actually happened that night? Oh, I know Joyce Raymond was murdered, and I know
Let me begin at the beginning, Steve. You remember the Monton robbery?
The Duke and Duchess of Monton, but of course.
Well, about a year ago, a collection of jewellery belonging to the Duke and Duchess of Monton was stolen from Harrington House in Norfolk. It was an extremely valuable, one might almost say unique collection. The estimated value was somewhere in the region of $1.25 million. Mm-hmm. The man mainly responsible for the job was called Leopold Ferrington. Ferrington worked with a man called Lewis Carson, and believe me, they were a couple of pretty smart birds. Just how smart, we shall never really know. Anyway, to cut a long story short, Ferrington got away with the collection and got as far as Cairo. When he reached Cairo, however, he thought that things were getting a little too hot for him, and he decided to bury the collection and make himself scarce. He picked a likely hiding place for the jewellery, made a careful note of its exact whereabouts, and then faded out of the picture. 3 months later, Ferrington caught typhoid and died.
Go on.
I think you can carry on from here, Temple.
Before he died, Ferrington got friendly with an English girl. As a matter of fact, she nursed him during his illness. When he knew that there was very little chance of his making a recovery, he told her about the robbery and gave her an apparently perfectly ordinary pair of horn-rimmed spectacles and asked her to take them to London and to give them to Lewis Carson.
And for your information, Steve, the name of the girl that looked after Ferrington, in other words, the girl that received the glasses, was Lydia Raymond. Lydia Raymond, mind you.
I don't get this. It was Joyce Raymond that came to the flat and asked us to deliver the glasses.
Now, wait a moment, darling. Lydia knew, as soon as she received the glasses from Ferrington, that in some mysterious way they were connected with the Monton robbery. As a matter of fact, from that very moment, so far as Lydia was concerned, things began to happen.
Go on.
Well, Zoltan Bari, Marquand Schreider, and a gentleman by the name of Richard Sullivan all tried to get the spectacles, but Lydia was a pretty determined sort of a girl, and she took them to London.
When she arrived in London, she told her sister about them. Now, Sullivan had already got in touch with Joyce Raymond and had offered her £5,000 if she would get them for him. Joyce got the glasses from Lydia and brought them to you. She was frightened to take them to Cairo herself because she knew from what Lydia had told her that Bari, Marquand and Schreider were pretty dangerous customers and would stop at nothing to get hold of them.
Did Joyce murder her sister?
Yes. Lydia found out what Joyce was up to and followed her to Half Moon Street.
But why did Joyce go down to Bournemouth?
Oh, for the simple reason that when she got back to her flat, there was a phone message from Sullivan saying he'd just arrived in England and wanted to see her. She went down to Bournemouth and told him exactly what happened. At first he was annoyed, and then suddenly realised that his best bet was to get rid of Joyce, who by this time knew far too much about things, and simply let us take the risks and carry the spectacles back to Cairo for him.
Yes, but why did Sullivan want the spectacles? Why did Marquand want them? Why did everyone seem to want them?
Don't you know why?
Oh, don't be infuriating, Paul. You know I don't.
2 days ago, Steve, I took those glasses to an optician's. I told him to make a detailed examination of them and to do something for me. Do you know what that something was?
No.
I told him to write down the prescription.
The prescription? What do you mean?
Well, you know that every pair of spectacles is made up to a prescription.
Oh, yes, of course.
And the number of prescriptions is, well, infinite. There are literally billions of them. When Ferrington hid the Monton collection, he made a chart showing the exact spot in the desert where the collection was buried. He knew that it was risky to keep the chart, so he converted it into a prescription for a pair of spectacles.
So that's it?
He had the spectacles made up, and then he destroyed both the chart and the prescription. He knew perfectly well, of course, that whenever he wanted the chart, all he had to do was to get an optician to examine the spectacles and write down the prescription for him.
I see. In other words, Sullivan, Bari, Marquand and Schreider wanted the spectacles in order to get the prescription so that they could find the Monton collection.
Exactly.
Oh, yes. Yes, but there's just one point, darling, that you haven't quite explained.
Oh? And what's that?
Who is Richard Sullivan? Is it Darwin?
Don't you know?
Is it Darwin?
Yes. Why do you think Darwin rescued us that afternoon at Sandbanks? Why do you think he stopped Marquand from holding you as a hostage?
I suppose he thought you had the glasses on you and he was frightened of losing them?
Yes. And when Miss Jeans picked you up, he rescued you because he thought Temple might get cold feet and hand the glasses over to Marquand.
I see. You know, it's funny, Paul, but, well, I've suspected Darwin all along, and yet, somehow, well, he's always seemed such a nice person. Oh.
What is it?
I've just remembered. You've invited him to dinner.
Well, thank you for a most excellent dinner, Temple.
Yes, indeed, it's really been most enjoyable.
Won't you have another glass of port, Miss Fraser?
No, I don't think so, thank you.
Darwin?
Oh, no, thanks, old boy. I've had more than enough.
Well, I suppose we'd better be making a move. You look a little on the pale side tonight, Mrs. Temple. Aren't you feeling too well?
Oh, I'm all right, Miss Fraser. I didn't sleep too well last night, so perhaps...
That's not surprising. We had a ghastly evening, Miss Fraser, perfectly ghastly. First of all, a chappie by the name of... By the way, I'd completely forgotten all about it. But do you know what you promised me last night?
What?
You promised to show me those spectacles.
Oh, yes. Yes, so I did.
Spectacles?
Mr. Temple's got rather an unusual pair of spectacles, Miss Fraser. He was offered £10,000 for them.
What? £10,000 for a pair of spectacles?
Yes.
They must be very unusual ones, Mr. Temple. What are they made of? Platinum studded with diamonds?
No, they're just a perfectly ordinary pair of spectacles.
Yes, but £10,000?
You see, you've even got the old girl.
Not so much of the old, Mr. Darwin.
I beg your pardon. You see, Miss Fraser's just as curious as I am.
Well, I suppose I've no alternative but to satisfy your curiosity. Now, where did I put them? Oh, here they are.
Thank you.
Well, Miss Fraser?
Well, I can't for the life of me imagine why anyone should offer you £10,000 for them.
May I, Miss Fraser?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Darwin?
I'm afraid I agree with Miss Fraser. If anyone comes along and offers you anything over a 5-year-old boy, I should jump at it.
What's your offer, Mr. Darwin?
My offer? Not a bit of use to me, old boy.
It looks to me as if you've missed the bus, darling.
I'm beginning to think so.
Well, here you are, Temple, and take my advice. If you get... Oh, dear, I've dropped them.
Oh, I'll move my chair.
No, it's all right, Miss Fraser.
Have you got them?
Yes, I've got them.
Are they broken?
Nope, they're right as rain. Sorry, Temple.
That's all right, no harm done.
There you are.
Thank you.
Well, I suppose we'd better be making a move.
Yes, and thank you again, Temple, for an excellent dinner.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, but I'm sorry you were disappointed in the spectacles.
Oh, that's all right.
I'm afraid you're going to be even more disappointed when you get home.
What do you mean?
I mean, when you examine the spectacles more closely.
But how can I examine them more closely? You've got them in your hand.
On the contrary, you've got them in your pocket.
I've got them? Are you crazy?
You did the switch over very neatly, my friend, but I'm afraid it won't get you anywhere.
What do you mean?
Those glasses, the ones you've put in your pocket, are just as valueless as these. The real glasses, the ones that Joyce Raymond gave me, were handed over to Sir Graham Forbes and Commandant Hakim first thing this morning, and by this...
Why, you cunning devil!
Paul, look out! Drop that revolver, Darwin.
What? What the devil do you mean?
You heard what I said. Drop that revolver.
Do you think you can scare me with that damn thing? Why, it's loaded with peppermints. You showed us that revolver last night when you dropped your hand back.
You think so, Mr. Darwin? You think so? You still think it's loaded with peppermints?
Ow! Who are you? What do you want? Are you after the spectacles?
Who are you, Miss Fraser?
My name's Nicholson. I'm from Scotland Yard.
Can I get you anything, sir?
Yes, we'd like something to drink. What would you like, Miss Fraser?
Nothing for me, thank you, Mr. Temple.
Are you sure?
Quite sure, thank you.
Steve?
No, thank you, darling.
Sir Graham?
I'd like a whiskey and soda.
Good. Have you any beer?
Yes, sir.
Well, a whiskey and soda and a beer.
Very good, sir.
I'm afraid I keep calling you Miss Fraser, Miss Nicholson. I'm terribly sorry.
That's all right. As a matter of fact, I simply can't get used to speaking without an accent. It's a most distressing condition to be in, I can assure you. Miss Nicholson, why did you go down to Bournemouth in the first place?
We sent Miss Nicholson down to Bournemouth to keep an eye on Armstrong. We knew he was working for Marquand, and we had a suspicion that Marquand was mixed up in the Monton robbery.
When I got down to Bournemouth, however, I spotted Darwin, became suspicious of him, and decided to take rather an interest in the young man.
I see. Well, what happened that night at the Hotel Karamat?
Well, Marquand, Schreider and Quinn knew that Darwin was after the spectacles and
declared war on him.
Exactly. The night we dined at the Karamat, Quinn tried to murder Darwin, but Darwin was too quick, turned the tables on him, shot him, and placed him in his car. He then fixed up with Valkyrie, the waiter, to deliver the note to us, and while we were outside searching for Quinn's car, Valkyrie went out onto the terrace and fired a revolver to give the impression that Quinn had only just that moment shot himself.
Of course, the most interesting aspect of the... Yes, what is it?
I beg your pardon, sir. The wireless officer has just received this message.
Oh, thank you.
Well?
It's from Commandant Hakim. They've found the collection.
Oh, good.
That's good news, Sir Graham.
It certainly is.
Well, this looks like the end of the Sullivan mystery, darling.
Yes. Yes.
What are you going to do when you get back to London, Mr. Temple?
What am I going to do? I'm going to write a book, and when I finish the book, Miss Nicholson, I'm going to sit back with my feet on the mantelpiece and think of nothing more important than the temperature of your beer, sir.
I beg your pardon, sir.
Yes, Stuart?
The gentleman in C cabin would rather like to have a word with you, sir.
Which gentleman?
The tall, thin gentleman, sir. You can see him through the door smoking a cigarette.
Oh. What's his name?
Delaney, sir.
All right. Tell him I'll meet him on the promenade deck.
Now, sir?
Yes, now.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Temple?
Yes.
I'm dreadfully sorry to disturb you, sir. My name is Delaney.
What can I do for you, Mr. Delaney?
Well, I'm given to understand that you're travelling through to England, to London, in fact.
Yes.
That was originally my own intention, but unfortunately I've been delayed and I've got to stay 2 or 3 days in Augusta.
Well?
I have a book, Mr. Temple, a present for my daughter, my little girl. It's her birthday tomorrow, and, well, I was wondering if you'd be good enough to deliver it for me. You see, if I post it in Augusta, she won't receive it until the end of the week, and there'll be no inconvenience for you, Mr. Temple. I'll send my wife a cable and she'll meet you at Waterloo.
What sort of a book is it, Mr. Delaney?
It's a copy of Alice in Wonderland. It's just a perfectly plain, ordinary book, Mr. Temple.
I'm afraid I'm...
You mean you won't?
No, thank you, Mr. Delaney. No, thank you.
That was the 8th and final episode of the Francis Darbridge serial, Paul Temple and the Sullivan Mystery, with Crawford Logan as Paul Temple and Gerda Stevenson as Steve. Others taking part were Richard Greenwood, Eliza Langland, Angus McInnes, Michael Mackenzie, Gareth Thomas and Nick Underwood. The production was by Patrick Rayner.